to me about it. And I told them I would make sure that we cleared it up and made it sure that people understood that we believe what they're doing was very well intended and that they are not bad people. They're actually good people, good men just trying to use their resources to help.
They're the #1 source for Oregon right now. And in fact, as we speak, they're on their way to Portland to get 1.2 million additional PPE supplies that they'll be distributing around the state. So my hat goes off to them, and I feel horrible.
Okay.
I'm not done, sir. I feel horrible the way they were treated. Even at the first meeting we had here, when we were looking at working with them in the long term. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I might just mention that one of them is a 7-year combat veteran of both Iraq and Afghanistan. Deserves tremendous respect, and he was hurt by it, but they're well on their way now to helping humanity and working to well, while we're on the subject, I'll just give one quick comment. Monday phone call, Mrs. Ramirez, who's head of human, I've got it here somewhere, Director of Oregon Mental Health, Cheryl Ramirez, stated on the AOC conference call yesterday, there are places in Oregon that are desperate for additional PPEs. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Gold?
I just wanted to make one quick comment. I was called about some concerns because of all the medical people furloughed and what would happen if we had a surge. And I called Jeremy Dumeyer, and he told me that the National Guard has medical teams that can come out and help if we need them. So I just wanted that to be made known.
Your microphone.
Well, I thought I do. I guess I just don't have it close to my mouth.
All right, next we're going to have our public comments. We want Jenny first.
Yes, so Jenny Rizzo from the hospital does have some comments, so we're going to get her on the line real quick.
Can I read something into the record, Mr. Chair, while we're in a little delay here?
If it's short, yeah, because she's about to be on the phone. I don't want to hold her up.
This is from Andre Bay.
This is public comment?
Yes.
Why don't we hold it because the phone's ringing?
Okay. Yeah, it's 2 sentences, 3, 2.5.
Try it one more time. Yeah. Try it one more time. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Either that, or if you want to, you can go whatever sequence you want.
Go ahead and read the 2 or 3 lines in you said from Mr. Bay.
Thank you. Mr. Bay was very, very helpful to a variety of citizens with a tremendous effort in the Chetco Bar fire. Good day, Commissioner Boyce. Thank you for reading this on the record. I'm concerned about the county and the businesses that are shutting down. Folks can't pay rent or bills. People need to get back to work, and the government funds are slowed to none presently coming in. What is the plans for Curry? Thank you for any input. Andre Bay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so Ms. Rizzo is not available, evidently.
I have 2 more.
Did you have another one from Lynn Boniface? Is that short as well?
Yes, and one from Gary and Val Early, but I didn't fill out a public comment slip on that. And I don't know if there's other people in the audience that want to.
understand.
Okay.
You've reached the voicemail for Jenny Rizzo, Chief Executive Officer for Curry Health Network. I'm sorry, I'm unable to take your call. But if you'll leave me your name, number, and a brief message, I'll be sure to return your call just as soon as I can. Thank you.
Go ahead.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello, Ms. Razzo. Hello, Ms. Williams. This is John Jay from the Curry County Board of Commissioners meeting 1 p.m. on Wednesday the 22nd. Would you please call us when you get a moment? 541-247-3207. 541-247-3207. Thank you very much.
JJ. Miss Beth Barker Hidalgo, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thanks for giving me this time. I just want to give you a brief update as to what the Curry Homeless Coalition has accomplished in response to COVID-19 as it relates to the impacts on people who are unhoused. We do have a draft plan that is in process. We should have that finalized draft by your April 29th meeting, and we would like to present that plan to you at that meeting, so I'm asking to be put on that agenda. Sanitation needs throughout the county remain, and we are waiting for direction from whether or not parks and other public restrooms will be reopened to remove those units. We're screening clients that are coming into the resource center for temperature and overall wellness status. If they have any symptoms whatsoever, they are not allowed past the lobby. But we did reinstitute showers, 1 to 2 a day, 3 days a week. We bring them to the back door of the Colvin building, which limits their access within the building. They go directly into the shower room, they shower and dress and leave. Self-isolation, we did secure Jot's Resort yesterday here in Gold Beach for options for people that are directed to self-isolate and that don't have the option to do that. We did have one client who called the triage line and was told to self-isolate, and unfortunately didn't have that option. He's feeling better today, 3 days after that contact with Curry General Hospital. We are, in addition to the self-isolation, we're working with ORCA to organize the financial process, the procedures for hotel vouchers to cover the needs of self-isolation if we have them. And lastly, I would hope there was a long list of partners that are engaged in this process, and I would like to request formally that the Curry Homeless Coalition be added to that list of partners, as we want to complement whatever public health, emergency management, and other healthcare professionals are doing in response to this public health emergency. It's not likely to be our last public health emergency, but as it relates to homelessness, there's concern that if we aren't including the response and planning for that population, then all of this other mitigation work that's being done by our local authorities may be for naught. And so we'd like to be part of that planning process moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Schmelzer,
Thank you, Beth.
did you I guess, do you need an AGRS to have that put on for the meeting for the 29th?
Yes, and I'll just work with Beth on that directly.
Okay. Did you have something, Commissioner, from Lynn Boniface?
I
You
did.
wanted to read into
I
the
do.
record?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Fog up my glasses. Forgive me. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I came to give my public comment in person at 9 o'clock this morning, only to find out from Commissioner Boyce that the meeting had been moved to 1 o'clock. I'm unable to come back in at 1. When there this morning, I asked Commissioner Boyce if he would be able to read my public comment, and since I could not come back at 1, he has in no way had input into what I'm about to say and actually was reluctant to read it for me, but it is input from the public. This is my comment, and mine alone is what I would have said if I had been there in person. I may comment on behalf of many, if not the majority of citizens in Curry County. I was listening to the budget instructional meeting on Monday and noted in the chart of county government that the citizens of Curry County were delineated at the top of the chart, thus meaning that we are the head of Curry County government. As such, we are curious and frankly rather miffed why the Board of Commissioners, 2 out of the 3 anyway, believes it necessary to have so many executive sessions. You're supposed to be transparent, and that would be especially true during this present time. It is our desire that the meetings be held as public meetings as they were intended. Transparency is very important. To go along with that, why have we not heard from Commissioner Pash as chair of the commission during this time when we are locked down? With the technology that you have, you could do a live stream such as Jake Pieper is doing, Mayor, for Brookings. But we have heard nothing at all. Don't worry, not a rah-rah, and don't worry through this. No updates on what is being considered or not considered for reopening. It would be a good thing for the citizens to hear from the chair of the Curry Commissioners during this time. I will close with this. If we are not fairly fully open by Memorial Day, you can kiss the summer season goodbye. Life is full of risk. When we open back up, if some still don't want to take that risk, they are free to continue to isolate or use masks or whatever. Those who need to reopen and want to reopen should also be free to do just that, and they have the right to do exactly that. The Constitution does not say these freedoms apply only when there is no virus to be dealt with. Our hope is that you get Curry County back to business sooner rather than later. Mr. Chair, I have one more, if I may.
All right.
It's from Gary and Val Early. They have a tremendous reputation. They've been going back and forth from Alaska to Curry County on their guide service. They have a tremendous following. And just...
5 stars?
Pardon me?
Is this 5-star charter?
No, that's in Gold Beach.
Okay.
This is in Brookings. These are the folks that are running the Salmon golf course in Brookings.
Gotcha.
So this letter's not quite as long, but I think it's very important because we have a lot of guides, as you know, in our county. Reopen Curry County is the subject line. We would like to urge Curry commissioners to request to the state of Oregon to reopen Curry County as soon as possible. As a small business in the fishing charter industry, we are essentially shut down. Not only are non-residents unable to fish in Oregon at this time, but no motels, bed and breakfast, or vacation rentals are available for Oregon residents. Our business has a huge trickle-down effect for these small communities by supporting the lodging, restaurant, tackle, port, and other small businesses within these communities. Many of us are small businesses that didn't get to take advantage of the PPP or EISL, emergency funding, opportunities in addition to losing the last of our winter fishing seasons. This is having a far-reaching effect on our families and future business. With the remoteness of our community and preparation by the local hospital, we feel this outdoor activity would present a small risk at this time. With appropriate social distancing and restrictions on large gatherings, we feel it is time to move forward toward opening our doors and boats instead of keeping them closed. We recognize that we are in a new normal at this time and don't expect anything this summer to be close to past years, but having the opportunity to stop the financial bleeding for our business and others like us is critically important at this time. Thank you for your time, consideration, and service to our community during this difficult time. Thank you again, Mr. Chair.
All right, and I did forget to mention earlier, for anyone wanting to, you can see this meeting on channel 182. You can also watch it on YouTube and Facebook, and then you can email in any questions or concerns that you have, and JJ can see those. Yes, sir.
We have an email from Mrs. Hunter,
Okay.
879 words, 5 attachments. Shall I read it?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Was it for public comment she wanted?
Send it to BOC_office.
Okay, then it would just be for the office, okay.
Okay.
All right, so I also see Representative David Brock Smith here. He wanted to make a public comment as well. Good afternoon, sir.
Mr. Chair? Could
Yes.
we also recognize we have 2 city administrators here, Gold Beach and Brookings. We also have the sheriff in the back
Okay.
there. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative David Brock Smith, House District 1 from Port Orford. It's good to see you all. I have the COVID beard going on. This is my first public appearance, and I'm channeling my inner Representative Hayden Hare, I think. I want to commend you, actually, and kind of push back on Mrs. Boniface's letter. All of you and the board have been very open to the public, and you have been having more meetings than most counties have been having, and opening those meetings up to the public. And so I appreciate the efforts of all the communication that you've been having through this pandemic and the process, and I thank you for it and the communication with my office and others. And looking at your agenda today, of course, there's lots of things on it, and so I wanted to come down and give you an update. I sent you all an email yesterday, multiple emails yesterday on the subject. I know that Commissioner Boyce was approached by some city managers late last week, and as we began this process, many of you remember that I'm the chair of the Coastal Caucus, and the Coastal Caucus wanted the governor to shut down the coastal transient lodging businesses, and of course that started in the North Coast and then moved to the South Coast and then went kind of to the middle. I was on a conference call with Vice President Pence earlier this morning, and the federal government is looking at Memorial Day weekend as the Phase 3 focus to date. Of course, testing, PPE, and all of these things are a big factor in all of this. I am moving forward as chair of the Coastal Caucus to try to do a coordinated effort on the coast. In many conversations that we have across the state, Grants Pass is different than Brookings, and Bend is different than Coos Bay, and vice versa. And so as we phase through this process in regions, the coast is a region itself, and then even though we have similarities across the coast, we also have differences. Brookings is different than Astoria as well. And so I'm trying to get together a coordinated effort so that we can open communication in that manner as we deal with the federal and the state agencies such as the BLM, the U.S. Forest Service, the state parks, and so forth. We can also communicate that information with the county commissioners. We'll have a call Friday with the state parks and some federal representatives for BLM, for example. And then we can then have the commissioners communicate with their local cities, ports, and local jurisdictions, I think, so that we can best do what we can for our citizens along the coast is what we're working towards. Lots of things going on, commissioners, and I know that many of you are involved, and I appreciate Summer being on our phone calls. I know that many of you have been in budget committee meetings, and so as we've been having the district calls, it's a similar process for the coastal calls. I'm happy to, I know that there's lots of pressure to open up, lots of pressure to do so. PPE is going to be a big part of that. And I appreciate the Jody and Tyson and the city of Gold Beach moving forward with purchasing the 100,000 masks and PPE, because the governor could, as early as Friday, release restrictions on elective surgeries in rural hospitals. We've been pushing hard for that. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be adequate PPE. Mr. Stout's business and has been, as you saw in the email yesterday, one of the lead procurements for the state on PPE, and he's actually on his way to Wilsonville to pick up tomorrow Gold Beach's procurement. I will be sending out a letter to the governor later today requesting that as we phase in this regional approach, that the PPE that is coming into the state, millions of units now after April 1st, that on how we're going to coordinate that with our local jurisdictions and counties and public health directors, and making sure that those supplies can be dispersed amongst our individuals and frontline workers so that we can limit the spike that will occur, right? That will occur. We will have increased cases after we open up, but we still need to keep that curve flattened as best possible and having those PPE, because the last thing we want, especially on the coast, is to open up, have an influx of people, because if 10,000 Oregonians want to come to the coast because they've been kept in the valley and been up in their homes like everyone else, we don't want to just open up Coos Bay and all those 10,000 people just come to Coos Bay. I hear the humming myself, but
I'm not sure what that was.
It's Jenny.
Okay.
oh, perfect. And then I'll sign off so that you can get her on the call. Anyway, so that's the plan or kind of a framework, excuse me, as we try to work with our coastal counties and yourselves and others, and moving forward, making sure that we have the adequate PPE that we didn't have before, making sure, as many of you know, the federal Senate passed a CARES Act 3.5 last night. It should be voted on tomorrow. It's about $482 billion, $321 billion for PPP. My understanding is also the business community that has those applications in the hopper will then just continue to do so. I know a lot of citizens have been frustrated on the unemployment issue, and they've doubled the employees at the UI department at the state to try to handle those. The problem is they aren't getting the necessary training to do so because there just isn't time. And there's a 30-year old antiquated UI programming system. So in closing, I'm happy to answer any questions. I know this is a lot of information in a brief amount of time, but again, PPE is going to be a critical component in opening up our communities and making sure that we do not have an influx of the virus and then have further restrictions and closures in the future will be doubly devastating to those businesses already. And we need to make sure, and I again appreciate Jody and Tyson Krieger for procuring that PPE at the state through the process of Mr. Stout's company, because that might be what will make sure that Curry Health Network can open sooner rather than later for elective surgeries and some saviors there.
Well, I have one I guess question statement is, I'm afraid rural counties in this nation are being forgotten. And what I'm wondering is, has anyone in the representatives or state senate looked at being in contact more with the federal government than state government? I know that our president has made many statements that if you need something, you contact his people and he will make sure that we get it. I heard him in one conference saying that he was worried that rural counties in this nation wouldn't get the proper service that they require, and to contact his offices if that happens. So if our state government can't or won't remember us when we need it, have we taken any steps to contact the federal authorities?
So as I said earlier, I was on a conference call this
Right, no, I
morning
understand
with
that.
Vice President Pence. I've been on more conference calls with Congressman Walden, unfortunately, more so than our Congressman Peter DeFazio. And Congressman Walden has been fantastic, and I've been putting out there, if anybody needs anything, to please, I have my Shalia Megson, my chief of staff, has been handling the UI issues that have been coming into my office, and so I'm happy to answer any or to assist or elevate any problem. The PPE problem, for example, is, as I explained here back on the 1st of April, is a finite amount globally, but everybody needs it. And so the feds can't get any more than we can. And so luckily we were able to procure frontline folks to do so.
Commissioner Gold?
I know that Oregon received a substantial amount of money, or is going to. I think it was like
Thank
2
you.
billion?
1.82 billion.
1.82. Okay, I have not heard as yet where that money is going to be dispersed, whether our counties, the rural counties, are going to get anything. And I'm hearing rumblings that it's all going to go to the most populated areas.
Appreciate the question. I meant to put it in my comments. I don't have a list in front of me. And it was something that I brought up yesterday in our Coastal Caucus call with the commissioners for North County. We have long known that these dollars were coming. 45% of those $1.82 billion will go to the local governments where counties or local governments with populations of over 500,000 have the opportunity for direct access to that money. Another part of the coastal regional discussions, as rulemaking is still not solidified on that and it's still coming through on those federal dollars, will be to make sure that we have a coordinated effort for our rural communities and coastal communities, jurisdictions, counties, local ports, cities, and so forth, for advocacy for those dollars, and so it is not all eaten up in the urban areas. Also, I've been working with Senator Wyden's office, and he has a bill for $250 billion specifically to be allocated to those local jurisdictions that have less than 500,000 people. So it is focused on the rural communities in the country and our region in Oregon for those dollars.
So I guess bottom line, there's no promises for us.
Well, no, there's no promise.
Okay.
Well, because we don't have the rulemaking done yet. There's no pathway for advocacy yet, but it will be part of the conversation in our opening up plans.
So is 55% still open? Because you said 45% was to go to cities over 500,000?
No. I said, so 55% goes to the state of the 1.82.
Okay.
45% goes to local governments, at which of that 45%, cities of over 500,000, according to the language in the bill, can directly apply for it.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is she ready?
Yes.
Okay. One question.
You mentioned conference call last Thursday with Alana from the governor's office through AOC. She was very non-committal, and the governor on Monday was also very non-committal. Didn't reference what you just said about the policy setting of how that money will be dispersed, that 45 cents. But yeah, it gave most of the rural commissioners county commissioners that were on that call pause for quite the concern, because the state is worst fears already being somewhat exaggerated. So I know you know Alana in the governor's office. I think that's a good place to start, and I think you can obviously help a lot of your small counties there.
It was unfortunate, Commissioner, a lot of politics that are being done throughout the system, and I wish it were not the case. I look forward to working with all of you to make sure that Curry County and our other rural counties and communities are at the front lines of whatever federal resources that are going to be passing through. And as soon as I have the information, you will, so that we can continue to form a strategy to make sure it happens.
Thank you, sir.
That we're passing, if I may, Mr. Chair, that we're passing through and intended for.
Right.
No question about that. So it's going to be a little bit of a potential battle. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr.
Thank you,
Chair.
Representative Smith.
John?
Amen.
Hello, this is Jenny Williams with Curry Health Network. How may I help you?
Hi, Ms. Williams. This is Commissioner Pash. You're in the Board of Commissioners room and we are having our meeting for Wednesday, April 22nd, and we had you had asked to have an update, and we appreciate your time, ma'am, that you could come on and do this, and we are open. Our ears are open.
Perfect. So I just want to make sure we're carefully following any guidelines that the government may put out specific for hospitals and health systems to reopen. According to a preliminary plan that
Ms. Razzo, if I could interrupt you, I think you moved away from your phone a little bit, if you could. When you first started, it was there you go. Now you're good.
All right. So, Curry Health Network, we've been following closely any direction or guidance from the governor's office, specifically related to opening hospitals and procedures related to the work that we do. And I saw a preliminary piece of work that the Hospital Association sent to us. It was prepared on the 16th. I received it on the 20th. Essentially saying that there were certain parameters that would need to be met before the governor would consider allowing counties, if you would, or hospitals to open. One of those, two of the main requirements for us is that we have to be able to attest that we have ample supplies of PPE such that we could demonstrate a 30-day supply at any time, and that we would be able to stand up an ICU in the event of a surge of patients. I'm very confident on the second half. I'm less confident on the PPE in that, we have been conserving PPE of all kinds, but of particular note, the area where we would not meet that requirement of a 30-day supply are surgical gowns and surgical masks. We are working with a partner organization that owns a large number of ambulatory surgery centers that we understand are also have been halted to see if they would provide any PPE of the kind that we would need. They've initially responded very favorably. They sent us a small supply, but certainly it's not going to be enough for me to attest. So we are working on exactly how many numbers of what we would need to be able to attest for that. And once we have that, and we also have to be able to demonstrate that we have a reliable supply chain for replenishment, and that is really where the kicker is and where the challenge is. And I know that Sri has been very helpful. Anything that's coming through way of the federal stockpile, that may help us, but it's just it's slow to come, and it will be the thing that kind of slows us from being able to, reopen fully.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Williams? Yes.
Ms. Williams, thank you very much for calling in. I just want you to repeat, if you would, please, that last part, that if you were able, and through the state guidelines, to start selective and elective surgeries, one of the biggest concerns you have is the minimum number and the scarcity of PPE supplies. Did I hear that correct?
That is correct.
So we could reverse our decision on April 1st.
April 1st is passed, sir.
No, we could still reverse that decision and go back and get, go back to the Josh Stout and Josh Richards and say, hey, we didn't make a very good decision then, we could change it now. So I would love the board to consider that. Our number one responsibility is protect the healthcare providers. And we're hearing daily from the federal government, we're hearing daily from the state of Oregon, if you have a source, go after it. And we had a chance, so now maybe we can make up for lost time. 3 weeks.
So, Court, the only thing I would just ask is that if you're talking about there's an individual in our community, I understand, that was had access, perhaps. My understanding at that time was primarily masks that he was talking about. We've got a strong supply of that. I would just want to make sure that we coordinate with you that if the county were going to purchase any PPE, that it is in fact for exactly what we would need.
Excellent point, if I may. And yes, the original inventory that David Brock-Smith and myself received from that company on the, I believe it was the 31st of March, Ms. Williams, was 6 different options, including surgical, essentially all the surgical items that were needed. So yeah, I'm I'm encouraging the board here to reconsider and see if that option or that opportunity is still there, because this is one of, as I heard Administrator Fritz say the other day, the decisions we make in the next 2 weeks to 30 days are some of the, probably the biggest decisions that we'll ever make.
All right. Anyone else? Miss Williams, I apologize for keep calling you Miss Razzo.
That's okay.
Apologize to Reg for me too, please. Thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You
Thank
too.
you again.
Bye-bye. Well, that ought to hang up. Mr. Barnes?
Thank you. I'm David Barnes. Representative Brock Smith, might you come back in a second? There's been a lot of talk about helping out businesses and corporations and everything. Something I brought up to Representative Brock Smith the other night in a comment on Dinner with Jake was something about there's people out there who've lost 4, 5, 6 weeks of pay now and are never going to be able to make that back. There's about to be a major mortgage crisis. There's a rent crisis right now. And I was hoping that you might be able to briefly talk with us about what might be happening to help out people on a more individual level than just putting money in organizational hands, putting it into people's hands to, like a rent jubilee or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Discrepo. Right? You know, I was thinking about you when I was trimming it up this morning, actually. Well, I appreciate the question. So if you remember, and all of you are on my legislative newsletter and press releases, and if you remember early on, I had 4 requests of the feds when they were looking for federal funding relief, one of which was a mortgage deferment, loan mortgage deferment program, because some of the largest costs for anyone, individual or business, is their loans that they have either for their home, for their business, and what have you. And being able to defer 2 or 3 months of those payments and just add them to the end of the loan would be helpful to them, and it would also trickle down, for lack of a better term, to the renters, because most of the renters, of course, the owners of those properties have mortgages themselves, and they would need that relief, and then they would, of course, qualify if they pass down to the renters. Other than those things, Mr. Barnes, you know, I wanted to see that rather than somebody getting a $1,200 federal check, because that would have been more beneficial, I think, to all the families across the country, because it would hit the rental families as well, rather than just those that are in or have their own homes. Plus, it would also help the business community as well, because a lot of those folks are making the payments that they're making as well. So okay. I hope that answered your question.
Just one quick comment. I had been speaking to a property consultant, and he was saying that a lot of the banks are sending out letters saying that they don't have to pay their mortgage for, say, 3 or 4 months, but then when that time elapses, then they have to pay the whole thing owed.
It's ridiculous that, so the banks aren't doing this on their own. A federally backed furlough or deferment program would then cover the banks to defer those mortgages and then to be able to add them to the back end. Having the idea that you're going to just furlough and not defer a mortgage payment for these individuals is ludicrous, because then they're coming back 2 months, 3 months down the road and don't have an income to make those payments.
I think the problem there is not everybody understands the difference between the words deferment and furlough.
Yes, you're exactly right, Commissioner. And further, there's a lot of, I'll just keep it at, there's a lot of frustrating things that are out there like this, and I hope that the citizens understand not to take into that program because it will be more devastating for them to come out of it if they were to.
They won't be able to.
All right, thank you. You have to step up to the mic, and just so you know, you don't have a public comment. It's a question for Mr. Smith.
I was just going to respond to what you said.
You have to be at the mic and identify yourself, please.
My name is Carla Foltz, and there are no deferment programs through the mortgage companies. I've talked to PennyMac, Chase, Wells Fargo. They're not offering deferment for the end of the loans. They are saying the very same thing, is that, you know, we're gonna code you. We're going to not turn you over to the credit bureaus. We're going to not charge you late fees, but there is no deferment for mortgage companies. So that isn't going to happen for those of us that have 3 or 4 mortgages.
Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Carla. So, as I said earlier in my comment, this was a program or an idea that I sent to our federal delegation to be part of to have a deferment program be part of a care package coming out of the feds. I know it doesn't exist. I wanted them to create it. Because it would be helpful for all the reasons that I was stating earlier. And I remembered, Commissioner Gold, another point to your comments with regards to the furlough rather than the deferment. There's a lot of onus in the state on the renters, as there should be. But right now the governor has ordered that all rent, that there is no evictions during this time. And so as renters or landlords still have mortgage payments for the property that they are renting to their renters, some are not getting the renter income because there is no evictions from those renters. And they are in a serious bind themselves, especially with rent control legislation that doesn't allow for evictions. And so there's a lot of hurt across the board for everyone.
Okay. We're going to need to move along. Thank you. All right, so next we're going to get into number 6, which is transition planning. Discuss the county order 20842, ban on transient lodging. Ms. Schmelzer, from your desk over there.
Yes, I just want to say that, so this was an order that the board installed. This wasn't something that came from the governor. This is something we put upon ourselves. So the board needs to discuss. That order, just if you recall, said it didn't have an end date in it. So the board needs to discuss when that end date will be and if there's going to be any conditions that go along with that end date. For example, if it is May 1st, are there stipulations such as 1 party per room or something to that effect?
Knowing where we are with what we have, I mean, I think it is behoove us that we have to understand that the economic devastation to this economy is going to be far worse, I believe, than the disease itself. I don't claim to be an expert in economies, and I won't speak too much on it, but I will say this: if what you think in 2008 was huge, what you're going to see from this will dwarf 2008 in the next 18 months. The fallout from business, from county and state and federal government, the trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that this is going to add to our national economy, not to even mention the homelessness, the lack of food, just the lack of services that are going to happen in this nation over the next 18 months, I think are going to be immeasurable. And I think probably 18 months from now, we'll all be sitting here going, wow, I can't believe how big that really is. I think it is in the best interest of this county to start to look to reopen. I agree that we need to do it in a measured way. And I will be in meetings with Representative Smith and the cities, in coordination with cities and other counties on the coastal community, as well as the state of Oregon. But we do have some things that we can do now, in a measured approach, and that is to possibly consider reopening our parks, the county parks, and to reopen county lodging as a beginning step, and possibly doing that as the president and as our governor has talked about, possibly starting to do this on May 1st. We can, bring back an order to do that, and also start to talk about getting some of our local businesses back open again. Restaurants, I don't think it's going to be our duty to have the police sit at a restaurant and go, he sat two people next to each other and he shouldn't have done that. I think that people have to self-police those kind of things. But if we do not, in my opinion, begin to start the wheels moving forward to get this county reopened, the devastation that we will face, the loss of businesses, which we're already going to lose a good percentage of our business, and the loss of economic value and economic income to this county, it will devastate us. Commissioner Gold?
I am all for that. I would like to approach this, I'll call it a common sense approach. Simply because you go to the grocery stores, people are acting in a good way. I don't see why they can't act in a good way as they're social distancing and so forth, going to parks or motels. I've received a number of letters from motel owners just crying out to get things open and so forth. So anyway, I'm all for it.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to divert away from the question that's on agenda item 6, but I want to read this letter that represents hopefully the 5 counties of.
This is what we were going to read in 11.
At 11 o'clock.
No. Remember, we moved this to 11 on the agenda.
I just, it might save some time.
No, I'm just asking. Is this the same thing you?
That would be up to you, Mr. Chair. I could go either way, but we also have the two of the 3 city administrators here. I'd like to hear from them. So I will gladly defer to whatever you think.
I wasn't asking you to defer, sir. All it was a question. You held this up.
Yeah, excuse me, that is the same letter. I'm sorry.
So yes, if you'd like to read it in now, that's fine. I was just asking if it was the same letter.
Okay, I'm going to preface it by saying that, of course, Douglas County has already signed it. Got a note from Josephine County, Commissioner Morgan. They have signed it. I'd be very surprised if Jackson didn't sign it. And I've already talked to 2 of the Coos County commissioners, and they are ready to go. Here it is. And of course, the approach is if we organize together as a region, we'll be able to deal better with the state.
Strength in numbers.
Can we, I want to bring up the governor's reopen plan, and then we also have the president's, but I don't know how to get out of that. I hit everything but the right thing, apparently. Can I have my mouse back? Your famous oversensitive mouse.
Okay. Can you get out of it from there?
I think so. Whoop, maybe. There's one.
This is something Eric still needs to fix. Is this one screen here? Those buttons hide.
Yeah, I did talk to Maureen.
Okay, here's what we're going to reference right here. This is just phase 1. And of course, everybody recognizes that phase 3 is not going to be back to normal as we know it, or certainly not bold enough to make any kind of prediction like that. I did send this out, as I mentioned earlier, to Director Smelzer this morning, I think around 10, maybe even a little earlier, and also I was quick to make sure that the city administrators got it. I've not had time to get feedback from them yet, which is important in, again, trying to unite the county, but I'm sure that they've had a chance to read it. I did hear from Administrator Fritz, and she had a very good point that I hope she can come up and make in a moment here. It's a little over a page. Bear with me. Governor Brown, thank you for your organizing the call yesterday, which would have been Monday, and I referenced that earlier. I was on that call, and providing a forum for county commissioners to express our concerns and ask questions. As you well know, the main topic of conversation centered around allowing Oregonians an opportunity to get back to work and to get the economy moving again. You have said that you were in favor of a regional approach in reopening the economy as long as certain criteria were met. And she articulated that, in my view, very well that day. We understand the concern of an increase in COVID-19 cases once restrictions are eased and agree that a strategic approach is getting things reopened is necessary. On the call, you and your staff outlined 3 necessary planning steps needing to be in place before a regional approval would be considered, and that's what we're looking at here. Those steps included 3 components of gating criteria, 3 components of our core state of preparedness, and a 3-phase reopening strategy. The 3 components of gating criteria included a declining number of people, very important here. Number 1, a declining number of people with symptoms. 2, a declining number of cases. And 3, adequate hospital capacity. And I think that one or both of our administrators here might speak to that. In Southwestern Oregon, there have been very few cases. And I reminded both 2 of the 3 Coos County commissioners yesterday, we still only have 7. I think that's accurate at this moment between Del Norte, Curry, and Coos counties. But where we've seen the most cases, there certainly has been a reduction in reported cases since the peak. Different counties have different peaks, of course. We have seen a decline in the number of tests being administered as the number of people with symptoms has decreased. We also believe that we have adequate testing and hospital capacity, as well as thorough contingency planning should cases begin to increase at any point. The 3 components of core standard preparedness included robust training and contact tracing. And I just learned what that was a month ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, but that's basically when somebody is shown to have the infection, finding out who they were in contact with, and that's a tremendous burden on local public health authorities. Healthcare system capacity, including PPE and surge capacity, and plans for health and safety. As you know, Douglas County implemented the first drive-through testing opportunity in the state. Douglas County has also funded a team of epidemiologists who have worked diligently to trace contacts of all cases of positive test results. Coos, Curry, Jackson, and Josephine counties each still have very few cases and capacity to test anyone with symptoms in the foreseeable future. They left out, no, they didn't. They didn't leave out any counties. I'm sorry. All 5 counties currently have healthcare capacity to manage the caseload and beyond. That might be debatable right now. But they apparently did their research, including Curry County, to make sure that was an accurate statement. I just need to have somebody in Curry County, of course, verify that. But if other medical procedures are not allowed soon, they may not have, as hospitals have limited ability to bear the financial burden of being out of business. Our plan, I didn't misread that, by the way. Our plans for health and safety are to still require social distancing, including the requirement to wear a mask and heightened sanitation requirements for any situation where social distancing can't be maintained. In parentheses, beauty salons, barbershops, etc. Last paragraph, to encourage those who can to continue to work from home to do so, to require anyone who is sick to stay home, and to provide free testing to any person referred by a medical professional. We will constantly monitor conditions and immediately to limit and mitigate any rebound in reported cases. We are asking your consideration and consent to a phase 1 reopening, still to the governor now, in Douglas, Coos, Curry, Jackson, Josephine counties, effective April 25th, under the federal guidelines. So we're matching, I have the federal guidelines here too, but they're essentially the same. So Mr. Chair, open for discussion there. Thank you again.
Well, I think we were just discussing the transitions, and you wanted to read this into it as well, so I'd like to stay on point for where we are. Are there any further comments on the ban on transient lodging and the order to suspend that?
Just a note from staff that if you do decide to proceed with this, we'll need some direction. Yeah, we'll need some direction so we can get the order prepared.
Ms. Fritz?
Yes.
You got to adjust those mics.
Adjust the mics, please, and identify yourself.
I interrupted you, sorry.
Jody Fritz, City of Gold Beach, City Manager. As far as lifting your ban, my only concern is that it's not going to adversely affect Gold Beach, because there's a lot of lodging facilities that are located just outside the city, but still served by us. And I brought some photographs of what McKay's Market looked like this morning as far as supplies in the store. And I'm concerned that people are stir crazy. They want to get to the coast. They want to recreate. We can see what happened on the East Coast in Jacksonville, Florida. And I don't feel like our stores have the capacity to provide services to just the locals. I did bring some pictures. I'll give them to Ms. Schmelzer. But if we have an influx of visitors, like even on a normal scale, like forget that we're having this going on, but just a normal scale, our supermarkets can't keep up right now. And it's not because they're not trying, it's a supply chain issue. I was at Bi-Mart yesterday picking up prescriptions, and same kind of issue there. There's big gaping holes in stock. And if we have an influx of people from outside the area, even though people are still supposed to stay at home, they won't. I'm concerned that we're not going to have enough food and supplies for our citizens. That is a deep concern of mine. And yes, I am concerned about our lodging facilities as well. I checked in with them yesterday to say that we are working with you all, and we're hoping that by May 1st we can have something. But I just want you to be aware that I don't know that right now, the way the food supply is going, that we have the capacity to have people come from outside the area. I'm deeply concerned about that.
Well, and I don't know how much people really know what's available out there right now. My wife and I ordered from Costco last week a whole plethora of groceries, and I would say 90% of their store stock was available. It was not out of stock. For some reason, toilet paper is still out of stock. We had it at our home in 3 days.
Okay, but that's a local. But what about the people coming here buying, like my dad? I'm shopping for my dad. I can't get stuff for Costco for my dad. He is stuck at home. He's been sheltering there for the last month.
No, I'm saying they delivered this stuff to my home. We ordered it online.
I do Costco too. So, okay, so that's my concern, but you guys.
Oh.
Janelle Howard, City Manager of Brookings. I can't speak for the entire council. We haven't met yet, but we definitely are supportive of being able to reopen business, to both to the public and to business in a safe way that, like you're talking about, it has to be measured. It has to be, and I believe our council is going to meet in the really near future, similar to just kind of try to talk through how we can do that. And I talked to Ms. Schmelzer earlier this week, and really looking forward to getting together with her and Shuri on public health, and with Jenny, just trying to make sure that we have that health piece really secure so that we don't open too soon. But I do think it's important to be able to work together, and we won't probably have the exact same resolutions that we're passing, but I do believe working together, we cross paths, not just in our county, but as you mentioned, Coos County, Del Norte, a lot. We have people that work in Del Norte County, of course, that live in Brookings, and vice versa. So anyway, I just want to let you know I'm supportive. I'm glad we're having the conversation. I look forward to working with all of you and trying to come up with something that works for all of our citizens.
Thanks, Ms. Howard.
Thank you
so much.
Could you stay there a minute?
Sorry.
Administrator Fritz? Could you come back up for just a second? Both of you together, maybe. It's
Social distancing.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Okay.
sorry. Lights now. Okay.
On the phone the other day, one of you mentioned, I can't remember now, but we had the 4th case in Curry County, and that you felt like that might have slowed us down a little bit in potential momentum that the city's had in co-convening, for lack of a better term, a reopen and response team. Do you still feel that way, or did I understand correctly? Do you want to comment on that?
Well, that's my personal feeling, and I guess because I grew up in a house with a mom that was a nurse, obviously the healthcare issue is of deep concern to me. The other part of me, the businesses in my town, that's also of deep concern to me. But I don't know. I just want this to be slow and measured. That we're not buying more trouble than. I'm not saying that we should stay shut down. I think that we need to look at slowly opening certain sectors, but we also have to meet these gating requirements, and I would like to work with the hospital district to see if we can get them the supply, the 30-day supply of PPE they feel like they need, the surgical supply, so that way we can feel more comfortable about it. But I think until that can be certified, I don't know that we can get to phase 1, but I'm not the one making that decision. But the healthcare thing is a huge concern to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments are closed, ma'am. I'm sorry. Jim, Miss- Yes.
I'm just going to follow up. I do understand that there are two issues, and I think I said it the day that the restaurants were limited. I agree completely that the economic crisis is going to overshadow the health crisis by a long shot. And I realize there are two camps and a whole bunch in between, but you have the extreme side that would like businesses to open today 100%, and there's a side on the health side that would like everybody to stay inside and never come out. And I think our job as government is to find that in between,
Find the middle.
where we need to move slowly, but we really need to move. It is important for business in all of our communities. So,
Thanks
thank
again.
you. I appreciate it.
Sheriff?
Thought I was gonna have to pull my gun out so I can get me a turn to talk up here.
So what?
Kind of wonder how we all got here, you know. But I got to tell you that I'm in full support of getting this county back open. The majority of people that I've talked to, well, I'm gonna say like 95, 98% have said, if we don't get the county back open, we're gonna lose, and we're never gonna recover. And I see that happening on a daily basis as it just keeps sinking and sinking and sinking. And I responded to Commissioner Gold about, her common sense thing, and I agree, there's got to be a lot of common sense. But, when there's a lot of people who've lost their jobs. A lot of people can't pay their mortgages, can't pay their rent, can't go out and buy food, on the verge of homelessness themselves because they don't know how to get past this. We got to get them back to work. And this transient lodging thing, it was all brought up, and the governor was asked to shut down transient lodging along the coast. She said, no, it didn't affect the rest of the state, so I can't shut it down on the coast. Well, the commissioners in every county and cities and city administrators and everything, city council members, decided to take the step forward and close down transient lodging. Even if we open transient lodging, we're not going to get a flood of people in. I've talked to several sheriffs in other areas that are not on the coastline who says there's hardly anybody in their motels. You would think that if they're not shut down, why aren't they using them? Well, they're not using them because the stay home, stay safe, and the social distancing. If we open back up, I guarantee you we're not going to get a flood of people coming into because Carey County's open. We're going to get some, but you got to look at the stats as well. We had so far 4 confirmed cases, 3 of which have recovered. So we actually only got 1. I don't know why they don't take those off the 3 that have recovered and say, because they're not positive now. They're not positive, they're just recovered. And I'm not saying that we're not going to get any more. Yeah, it's possible, but it won't be a surge. And this is my opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth. There won't be a surge of problems. And it's just, like I say, the economic recovery is going to be non-existent if we do not get people back to work so they can make some money. The restaurants, I know we don't have a lot of say-so over that because that's a governor's order. Whenever that opens back up, and it can be a coordinated effort whatsoever. And the cities, I admire what they've done and what they're planning on do for their citizens. But we're not talking about the cities, we're talking about our county. And the transient lodging, just for number one, the transient lodging that you got started as far as the TLT tax, we were budgeting with some of that money that's supposed to come in. If that money don't come in, our budget goes to crap. People who have lost their jobs, can't pay their mortgages, losing their homes and everything like that, they're not going to pay their taxes. And what happens when they don't pay their taxes? The county, the biggest portion of their money that come in is what we're budgeted for is from property taxes. Next year is going to be, you know, a major hurdle and hurt on the county and our citizens. And I got to tell the citizens, I'm here for you, and I'll do what it takes, because, you know, we're seeing an influx in crimes. So far, we've been very lucky about solving some. We had a shooting this morning, most people don't know about.
And another incident yesterday, big incident.
Another big incident that we got involved with, 4 agencies. Gold Beach started it, and we had four agencies, canines out, we had drones out. We ended up catching the guy, getting other people involved. We're working on cases now of getting a major burglary solved. We got a lot of property back. In fact, I got somebody turned over where they're gonna show us where some more property is today. I mean, it's just a never-ending thing, and we've seen an uptick on domestic violence because people are stuck at home, no work, turn to alcohol or whatever, but there's a lot of alcohol and drugs involved. I'm begging you, well, I'm not begging you, I'm asking you to consider reopening transient lodging at least by the 1st of this next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And thank you for everything you guys do. So would we like to prepare, I'd like to bring a motion that we prepare an order to vacate the prior order and reopen our transition or reopen our transient lodging for the county.
The date, Mr. Chair?
As of May 1st, because we're going to have to prepare the order. So it'll come out on the meeting for the 29th. And then hopefully if we decide to sign this is dated for the 25th. She can hopefully open up some of our restaurants and that in the meantime, start to get some of that transitioning as well.
I'm going to second that motion, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Further discussion?
I'm all in favor.
Roll, please.
Discussion? Can we make that if it's not an exact date, just in that general week now, in case there's something else we might need to work on, or you didn't want a hard, fast May 1st date?
May 1st, I think we can always change it.
And that's something we can communicate to our lodging establishment?
Yes.
So we have agreement there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.
Representative Smith, did you have something else?
I just wanted to thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the conversation. May 1st was I believe, the date that I put on the resolution draft to the governor that I drafted for the county and for all of you. I just want to make sure, you know, I'm here today just to let you know about the process and give you an update. I know you only have meetings at certain times, and I appreciate that. The whole purpose of my talk to you earlier was to talk about a coordinated effort. Mm-hmm. And so I assume that you still want to be included in that process.
Yes.
Because I appreciate the concerns that we all have for our business community and as well as trying to keep people safe. So appreciate the efforts of all of you and all of your work for our mutual constituents, and we'll look forward to having you on the phone on Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, next we have 7, transition planning. Discuss Governor's Executive Order 2012 banning on camping, barbershops, and hair salons.
Okay, so I believe that items 7 and 8 could be addressed through the letter that Commissioner Boyce had. So maybe we should just discuss all 3 of those together, those 2 items, when we discuss that letter under number 11.
Okay. And again, I understand that, you know, there are concerns from people in the community as well as myself. I know with my health problems, with my health past, if I get this disease, for me, it's probably a death sentence. So, you know, of course we want to be careful. We don't want our kids to catch this, but we also need to realize that the economic impact to this nation is going to be, again, far outweighing what I believe is the effect of the virus. Now, saying that, of course, somebody can come to me that's had the virus or lost someone and say, so was that worth it? And I understand that argument as well. But I do agree that this letter seems timely and concise. And I would be interested in being one to sign this letter and get it to the governor's office.
I agree to that also, but I don't know whether we need a formal motion.
Yes, we do, I believe.
Does that cover the agenda items you were tying in?
That would cover 7 and 8, because 7 and 8 are the governor's orders. So we, the discussion was, can we trump the governor?
Right. Well, we're 5 counties coming together, and there are strength in numbers. When 5 counties come together as one voice and say, Your Honor, we understand your concerns, but our needs are this, and as stated in this letter, and as this 5 county constituency, we are asking you to lift this on the coast, and that's where we get more strength.
To hear the board say yes on this, it's the best day I've had in a long time. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioner.
Would you like to make a motion, Commissioner?
I would accept accepting this letter in conjunction with the 5 region counties, Jackson, Josephine, Coos, Curry, and Douglas, and the first phase of the reopen and recovery for Southwest Oregon.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Roll, please.
Commissioner Gold.
Aye.
Vice Chair Boyce.
Yes.
Chair Pash.
Aye. And
Motion
just
carried unanimously.
for the public's information, this is to be effective for April 25th, 2020.
And if they have questions, contact us.
All right, so we're going to move on now to transition planning for county employees, services, and offices. Ms. Schmelzer?
Okay, so so far we've been doing pretty good about having employees work from home or just having the essential workers here. But at some point we have to open the doors to the public. So we need to decide what date that is. Is that May 1st? Do we allow all employees back at the same time? Do we provide all services effective May 1st or whatever date you choose? Or how do you wish to proceed with getting government back on track?
And for me, I would say, in offices like we have, for Miss Madison, I was trying to make sure I get that right, or some of the other employees that we have that have their own individual offices, it's easier for them to come back because they can close their door. They can take those protective measures, where if we've got a road crew that is all working think it might be something that we would want to sit with or discuss. You may want to discuss as the Director of Operations, if we were to approve to take those steps to start to bring people back, to direct you to make sure that those managers are taking the proper steps that you feel are necessary. Making sure if you've got 2 or 3 people in a small group working on a pickup truck, that they're wearing the proper equipment, that they're going to wash or whatever they need to do after, whatever those protocols are from Renee or Ray Ward. For you to make sure that gets handled.
Sure.
That would be a way that I think the board can start to move forward as far as our employees that we have that can protect themselves by closing their office doors or by working from home when they can, but also spending a few days here and start to transition slowly back into the offices. I think we need to start to do that as well.
Okay, and then what are your thoughts on opening the doors to the public?
May 1 would be
I agree with Commissioner Boyce, and that probably May 1st would be a good time to start to do that.
Okay.
And just being very cognizant of who's walking up to you. I mean, if you've got somebody walking up to you, are we going to have somebody standing at the door with a thermometer? I went in the sheriff's office yesterday and a guy hit me in the forehead with a thermometer and checked my temperature. Are we going to have that? Probably not, but just being smart about what we're doing and paying attention to your surroundings. And if someone walks up to you that you have a concern about, maybe just saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and let's make sure we keep our social distancing. If someone gets offended by that, I don't know where they've been for the last 6 weeks.
3 months. Yeah.
I'm going to have to agree with that. I think you have to start trusting people to do the right thing. I mean, this is a free country, so.
Do you agree May 1st for opening the doors to the public?
I do, yes.
Is everything not, though, tentative? On any given day, news that we might get?
Absolutely. We can always come back if we have a huge blow up here, absolutely, to come back and readdress.
Thank you.
Yes.
The only thing that's permanent in this life is change, so we've got to get over it.
Thank you, Administrator Fritz. My mom is going to be so excited. There's finally brown sugar back on the shelves.
So do we need an order for that?
No.
Okay. I would like to, if we could, before we go on to 10, take 5 minutes. I need to get some water in my throat. So if we could just step away for 5 minutes would be great.
Before you go to your break, can you still allow comment on that last topic? The office is open.
All right.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jim Cullen, Curry County Assessor.
Jim? It's hitting you in the, there you go.
I just wanted to comment. I'm wondering if you would allow for some time for discussion between department heads and elected officials to discuss the reopening of the doors to the public. At least at the Commissioner's office, we've always been open throughout this by appointment, and we're able to bring people in when they need to come in. Unfortunately, most of the public's business we've been able to take care of by phone or by email. Part of the problem with just saying that you're going to open back up on May 1st is, throughout this whole crisis, there really hasn't been a lot of information that's circulated down to department heads and elected officials about what the county's procedures are going to be. We finally did get the doors closed, but it would be nice to have that discussion to see, how we should be treating, requests from employees or requests from the public. So, yeah, I would request a little bit more time.
Commissioner Gold?
We have a meeting, April 29th. It seems to me we could get together and talk about protocol at that time.
That would be great.
Okay?
Why don't we?
Make that part of the agenda.
So Council Huddle did bring up the fact that we could have a management meeting. We would have to have a special one and figure out how to actually meet together in the same room, of course. But our management meetings would be after that date. But we could always have a special one or do as much as we can via email, like we have been doing.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we plan on taking a few minutes in the meeting on the 29th? Can we just make a line item for it?
Sure.
That we can talk about the department heads and elected officials to be able to sit and talk about the people that they are in their charge, that we can discuss this. As far as finance and all, those doors can all be closed. Your doors can be closed. The Bach office can be closed, and if somebody comes up and JJ is there, they can knock on the door and they'll see JJ sitting there. So we can control a lot of that.
I appreciate that comment, Commissioner Pash, because I wasn't just sure exactly what you were meaning by opening the doors on May 1st.
Right.
If we're still able to, meet with the public by appointment, I think that works.
Yes. No, and that's kind of where I'm going with it is, if somebody knocks on the Bach office door and JJ sees it and he doesn't feel comfortable to open the door to speak to that person, he can talk to them through the door and say, "What's your business here?" And I need to talk to a commissioner. Okay, who would you like to talk to? And he can then call that commissioner to come out in the hallway if he doesn't feel comfortable to let the person in. These are things that I'm saying that the management and elected officials need to be cognizant of the surroundings and who's walking up to them and make those kind of decisions.
And my reason for having a meeting of department heads, elected officials, we can get together, discuss best practices, because I sure don't know them all. So thank you. I appreciate your making arrangements for something like that to happen.
Okay, good.
We might be able to do that by phone like we did on the 19th at 2 o'clock. That seemed to work pretty well. We had about 7 or 8 people on the phone, and if we can't get everybody in a room properly, that might be a possible option on the 29th or any date for that matter you want to set up.
Okay.
So we're going to really well, though.
Why don't we take 10 minutes, because it's going to take 3 minutes to get to my office. So why don't we take 10 minutes? We'll be back at 14:40.
If yours is the next big idea and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it. If you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Priest, Executive Director at CIS. And I really enjoy coming every year to this conference because CIS, we are all about counties. We are owned by counties. We were formed by the AOC. This is a great occasion for us to meet everybody in one place and learn what's important to the counties all across Oregon.
It's the networking. I mean, we learn a lot about the different issues that counties deal with, but it's networking with other commissioners, getting ideas on how they handle situations that is the most helpful for me.
I love my job. It actually matters to me on a daily basis. I used to do a lot of charity, and, you know, in commissioning in Deschutes County, you can make a serious difference. Lots of things have happened since I've been in office, and I feel like it's important to represent the people. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, and I love the residents of Eastern Oregon. The architect of our first house actually had Doris Day as a dear friend and a client, and he would bring Doris Day up the mountains in Malibu to our house as it was being built.
This is my fourth conference at AOC. My favorite part is the fellowship with other commissioners and coming up with solutions with common situations and with commissioners from around the state to best serve our people. My favorite part about being a commissioner in Josephine County is the people that we work with. We live in the most beautiful place, but we have the most beautiful people. They are talented, artistic, caring. We have such a high level of philanthropy and just caring for our fellow citizens, and it's the best place in all of Oregon.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Martha Schrader from Clackamas County, Oregon. I'm the current president of the Association of Oregon Counties. Oh my goodness, I've been president for 1 year, but I've been a member of the Association of Oregon Counties since 2003. So one of the reasons I really wanted to be president, and I've enjoyed it so much, is because I get to know everybody across the state, all the commissioners, and I've been from one end of the state to the other, visiting with them, talking with them, and really getting an idea of how we differ, but more importantly, what our similarities are and what we can do with one another to move forward with good county government.
I've been coming to AOC now for 4 years. My favorite part of serving as commissioner is trying to bring positive effects for our community and our county.
This is my second year at AOC, and the camaraderie that I've found in my Eastern Oregon partners and just the camaraderie of AOC has really blessed my life.
My name is Court Boyce, Curry County Commissioner. This is a collection of people, county commissioners, public officials, well attended from all over the state. You know, I have the privilege of working with a very diverse group of people, different ages, different backgrounds, different interests, but they're all teaming up to solve the problems of our county. And it's just really a pleasure to be able to be connected with and working with those people. And better days, good days ahead for our county and our citizens.
Hi, I'm Joe DeBolskis. This is my third AOC convention, and my favorite part is the networking with the people. And the breakout sessions are kind of good because it gives me something to focus on, a goal where I want the county to be in 5 years when my term is up.
Hi, I'm Tillamook County Commissioner Dave Yamamoto. Our county college class was probably was the best county college class ever at AOC. It was the largest at over 33 members. When you look at the legislature and the power that the major metropolitan areas have, the rural counties are oftentimes left out of those conversations. AOC really does a terrific job of representing rural counties and rural interests, and we wouldn't have the impact that we do in Oregon without AOC.
My name is Joe Burney, Lane County Commissioner from Springfield. My favorite part is eating good food. My second favorite part is meeting with other commissioners, seeing what they're thinking, comparing solutions to problems, learning how nonpartisan solutions really are, and getting ideas.
Yes. Hi, my name is Derek DeGroot, Klamath County Commissioner, and so I'm running for second vice president of the Association of Oregon Counties. I believe that our association is perfectly poised to solve problems and bring solutions to Oregon politics and communicate with the legislature about the diversity of Oregon.
I'm Jay Bozovich, and I'm a Lane County Commissioner, and so I've been a commissioner for about 8 years and 11 months. And my favorite part about being a commissioner is this job is different every day.
Hi, my name is Alex Tardif, and I'm a commissioner for Columbia County and currently serving as AOC treasurer in my second year. And the thing I enjoy most about AOC and being the treasurer is the ability to bring 36 counties together to build a state vision, to move our state forward into the future while building a livable, workable community that we all want to enjoy.
One of the things I really appreciate about our entire region is that we embrace who we are, and I think that's what unifies us. Once the timber and fishing industries collapsed, it took us a long time to get back on our feet. People didn't quite grasp the idea that once these jobs left, they weren't going to get other family wage jobs, and it crippled us.
Things were getting really dire. So we just saw that this was an opportunity to maybe look at that public land a little differently and how it could bring more dollars into our region.
The Wild Rivers Coast is so unique because there are more wild and scenic rivers here than anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The scenic beauty is just amazing. There's so many different places to go, from the national forest down to the protected ocean, and it's just a really special place.
I guess I didn't really know how special it was, though, until I moved away to Portland and came back and saw all the potential here.
We're uncrowded, we're unspoiled, and we're a little difficult to get to, but my God, once you come here, you fall in love.
We just thought if we could pull people to come into this Wild Rivers Coast and stay longer and explore a little farther into our backcountry, there was a lot of opportunities for them to experience.
I think our whole future is at stake here. This area is ready to go. We just need to give it a little kick in the butt.
I'm going to be honest, when the Rural Tourism Studio came here, I was skeptical because I didn't see far enough ahead that we actually could collaborate regionally, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been amazing.
The Rural Tourism Studios was the first time we were able to come together as a region to talk about the future of our economy.
If we can have a strong tourism economy in this area, it's going to benefit the whole community.
We have to rely on ourselves, and I think through this program, it's sort of opened our eyes to what we could do when we work together. Community leaders really focused on 3 areas: outdoor recreation, food and agricultural tourism, and really building community relationships.
In our area, a lot of
April 22nd. Coming back in. Number 10 would be other matters pertinent to COVID-19. Ms. Schmelzer?
This was put on the agenda just in case commissioners had anything else they wanted to talk about regarding COVID-19.
Whoops. There you go. That was pretty good.
Getting tired here. This was put on the agenda in case the commissioners had anything else regarding COVID-19 they wanted to talk about. Further down on the agenda, I do have some more stuff to talk about regarding making sure we get department heads and everybody trained appropriately for disasters. But for right now, it's just to see if the commissioners had anything else they wanted to talk about.
Commissioners? Commissioner Boyce or Gold?
I just think at this time, and I'm going to reiterate what I'm saying, we need to take a common sense approach, because I think the sky is falling down is not the right approach.
Commissioner Boyce?
Just deep concern to stay with us.
Transient lodging, and hopefully the governor opens up, you know, our restaurants and starts to get the businesses in this county rolling again. We're going to have an influx probably of more cases of this. You know, this isn't going to just go away now. Again, it's going to be a matter of smart management. You know, we may get, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 more cases of this. Who knows how many? We may get an absolute outbreak, which at that point the board may decide to go back and change some things again. But we have to move forward. We can't all just roll ourselves up in our houses and hope that it somehow goes away. So I guess, you know, if we happen to hear of a new case, I just hope that panic doesn't set in and everyone gets all pointing fingers at each other and wanting to know things. Just know that the people that we have in place are on top of this, folks. We are on this every day. Ms. Ward is doing an unbelievable job. Ms. Schmelzer, the communication level we have with the state, with our emergency services departments, with the governor's office, with Representative Smith. We are on top of this, and we will do everything we can to mitigate this to be a zero-sum effect on our county. So I just ask everyone that is not for reopening to please understand that your neighbors are losing their businesses. Your neighbors are, you know, the county is losing its availability to function and provide you with the services that you need, including our sheriff's department. We all need law enforcement and protection, and we need to find ways to do that. So I just hope everyone would just take a pause and let this start to reopen, and hopefully it'll all turn out for the best. Commissioner Gold?
I was just going to say one thing. I've heard a lot about getting herd immunity, H-E-R-D. There are probably a lot of people in this county and in the nation that have had COVID-19, but they're asymptomatic, don't have the symptoms. And if everybody's staying sequestered, we're not going to be able to get that herd immunity and be able to get rid of the disease. So I've heard that from a number of doctors. So not personally, over the radio and so forth, which I thought was interesting. So
the great news about this disease is if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. Stay home. Don't let anyone, you know, keep who comes around you to the absolute minimum that you know. You can have food delivered to your property. You don't have to get this. If you don't want it, you can stay home, and you're 99% probably not going to get it. All right, next we have
just quickly. I'm not real concerned, you know, obviously paying close attention, but I'm not fearful of a big second surge, except that, and for this reason, we are so much better prepared than we were the middle of February. And even in the nation, nationally speaking, we know so much more. The biggest mystery about this disease is we don't know how many, we don't have a clue how many have been exposed. And about 1 to 2% of the people in the country, I think it's 3 million, have been tested. So yeah, that's not even 1% actually. It's a huge number. But testing is going to be everything, and you see daily reminders of that progress, and that's very encouraging. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. So action on discussion items would be next. And do we have any more discussion items that need action?
No. Just number 12.
Right. And that would be to discuss elected officials and department head roles in an emergency.
Okay, so I just want to share with everyone, for the public and for employees that are watching, commissioners, everyone, that a lot of times people in an emergency, you know, they start questioning, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? Why didn't they tell us more about this? And I want them to understand what good staff we have and that they do know what they're doing. And I just wanted to share with people some of the qualifications and then some of the processes on how things happen. So with our public health administrator and the public health department, I have to say, first of all, that all public health staff already stepped. A lot of people may not know, but she was the public health emergency preparedness coordinator prior to taking this role. She also has quite a bit of experience. I'm not going to go through all of the training and everything she had, but she is skilled in Oregon guideline interviewing. So when it comes to following up on cases, she knows how to ask. She's been trained in all of that. She is HIPAA compliant. She's had the training on that. Office of Emergency Management, she has basic of applied series, meaning she has the basic fundamentals and all the training involved with that. She's had the professional development series that is required. She has had the intermediate for expanding incidents, ICS 300, which becomes pretty important, we'll talk about later. She has senior and advanced officials workshop for all hazards preparedness. A lot of this is the same stuff that Emergency Management Manager Dumeyer has. But what's interesting is she also has, you know, disaster preparedness for hospitals and healthcare organizations within the community infrastructure. Medical countermeasures, awareness for public health emergencies, which we're in right now. Centers for Disease Control, Division of State and Local Readiness, Office of Public Health Readiness and Response. She's actually trained as an instructor. OHA Health Security Preparedness and Response, Crisis Emergency Risk Communications, also trained as a public information officer with that. Center of Public Health Practice, Acute and Disease Prevention. That's with the Disease Communicable Control Basics, Outbreak Investigation Essentials. She's also trained in Mass Fatality Management, Emergency Preparedness and Management of Mass Fatalities. Interestingly, pandemic influenza. So she's had the training. We're in really good hands with our staff. Just moving on a little bit, I want to talk about Emergency Manager Dumeyer. His qualifications are in a different format because I grabbed them off of a different information sheet. He is our emergency manager. He has been in that position since 2017. Prior to that, he was a corrections deputy, a field training officer, wildland firefighter. He's been on task force, but he too has quite a few credentials under his hat. I'll just pull out a few of them here. Crisis leadership and decision making, management of spontaneous volunteers in disaster, local volunteer and donations management, which becomes really important when everybody wants to help. There's a way that you help. EOC management and operations, national response framework, NIMS public information systems, ICS for single resources and initial action incident, fundamentals of emergency management, national incident management systems, NIMS, which is something the commissioners are going to have to go through, NIMS training, introduction to incident command systems. He goes on with more as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about the roles of department heads, employees, and commissioners, because we all have a role. We do have an emergency operations plan. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with it. Emergency Management Dumeyer was working on a policy for all employees and department heads to follow. And he was working with Julie Swift from HR about how to get us through and get that policy updated. Unfortunately, that was COVID hit, you know, right after he had proposed some of that. But so I'll just go through the emergency operations plan. It talks about the emergency services director, which is Mr. Dumeyer, has the authority and responsibility for the coordination of the emergency management organization. The emergency services director has been granted the authority to coordinate activities that allow the county to mitigate, prepare for, respond to, and recover from major emergencies or disasters. And then there's a line of succession. Who does what? What becomes most important? So the lines of succession here are, when it comes to the emergency operations, boots on the ground, who's doing what? It's going to be your emergency management director, the sheriff's designee, and an incident commander or area commander. When it comes to making the policy and the governance side, which is where the commissioners come on board, and some of the elected officials we have here, is it's the chairperson first. In the absence of the chairperson, they move on to the vice chair. In absence of the vice chair, they move on to the remaining commissioner, and then it's the sheriff. They go down the line, it's the clerk, the assessor, and then the treasurer. And this plan, do you know when the plan was adopted? 2005. So this has been on the book since 2005. 2015, sorry. Council?
Thank you. At the top of this in the text, it seems to say we don't automatically go to...
Do you have a microphone on, Council?
Sorry, no, I don't. At the top in that text area, it says the line of succession will be initiated in the event the BOC is unable to function as a group. So it seems like the first default position is the board as a whole. Okay.
That is correct. If they can get the board together, great. Some emergencies you can't. You know, if a tsunami hit today, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. And then the public health side has a similar operations plan with a similar chain of command. So we have an emergency management organization, which involves several people. Primary members are the chair, the emergency management director, council, fire chief, sheriff, public health administrator, Red Cross, county roadmaster, county accountant. And then we have alternates who step in and help. It's the board vice chair, district attorney, fire chief, under sheriff, environmental health specialist, disaster services chair, and then the foreman for the roadmaster for roads, and then the personnel coordinator. So the board chair duties, so the chairperson is primarily responsible for making emergency policy decisions, again, as council pointed out, in the event the board can't organize. He makes emergency policy decisions.
And I want to make that clear. In the event to the public, in the event that the entire board cannot meet and make that policy.
Right, that is correct. He can declare a state of emergency when necessary, implementing emergency powers of local government, keeping the public and the state emergency management office informed of the situation. He can request outside assistance when necessary. And then the emergency services director, which is the emergency management director, has the authority and responsible overseeing all of the emergency management programs and activities, and they're actually outlined in the statutes. He shall also direct all components of the local emergency management program, including assessing the availability and readiness of local resources that are most likely required during the incident, and he'll identify and correct any shortfalls, making sure we have what we need. The direction and control of the county emergency management manager will be conducted via an incident command center or system and the multi-agency coordination system described in the plan. And again, if you don't have the plan, you might want to get a copy of that. The county emergency management director has the authority under emergency conditions to establish priorities for the assignment and use of all resources on a countywide basis. So he can step in and decide what's more important in these emergency situations. He's also responsible for, or the duties are, approving and supporting implementation of an incident action plan, coordinating activities supporting the incident or event. He approves release of information through the Public Information Officer. He performs the duties of the following command staff if no one has been assigned to the position, such as Safety Officer, Public Information Officer, or the Liaison Officer. Yes, Counsel.
So, thank you. And then I did confirm with the Emergency Management Coordinator. You mentioned these items are in our plan, and they could get themselves a copy of the plan, and he confirmed with me that this plan is available on the county's website as well.
It is,
okay,
yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's actually on the homepage, isn't it, Mr. Jesuit? Well, you can always go to the emergency management page and you can find it there. So he's also directing, controlling, and coordinating within established policy the operational and logistical support of county resources committed to the emergency, providing emergency information and instructions to the public, making official releases to the news media, and the scheduling of press conferences as necessary. Like I mentioned, he had come to me a couple months ago saying we need to get our staff trained in disaster preparedness and what they're going to do in the event there is a disaster. And actually going through what we just went through with COVID-19, I believe even more that we need to get staff trained. You know, I think a lot of people, they don't know what to do. They're not either aware of the plan or they're not applying general governance policies that you would see. So what he is proposing is that minimum training requirements for all staff. This is for all of this. So the emergency managers and the incident commanders would have a certain level of training. Then other command staff have another level. And he breaks it down even further by going into an actual policy that he has drafted, which we'll be bringing back to you after COVID-19 has settled down a little bit. But it's an actual guideline on who gets trained in what. You can see that all employees will have to be trained in certain things, and that starts in the bottom where it says Roman numeral I, all employees. They'd have to go through an introduction to NIMS and an introduction to ICS. All supervisors would have to do the above plus basics ICS. Middle management would have to do the intermediate, again, the above, and then they'd have to do the intermediate ICS, national response plan training. There's also training in here he has outlined that would be necessary for the command and general staff. Then Board of Commissioners, they of course get the biggest responsibility where they should be trained in all of the above, plus the NIMS training. And the NIMS training really focuses on the roles of the board. Here's just a real quick summary. County commissioners, for example, typically comprise the policy level of incident management and provide guidance regarding priorities and strategies for dealing with incident response and recovery. So that's like their lead role, the number one thing they should be focused on. And that's what we have. So it's just to kind of let the public know you're in good hands, and we're going to make sure you're in even better hands by making sure even all staff are trained to a certain degree, so that with any emergency that we have coming up, we'll be even more prepared than we are right now.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Boyce?
Specific on the staff, I might have missed that. I think you said it, but I didn't quite catch that.
So it's all staff that needs to be trained. If the board supports this policy, all staff would need to be trained in the basics.
But you don't mean all county employees?
All county employees.
Oh, never heard that before.
And I can say, just from my own experience in other counties, it's the department heads that actually take turns at an EOC to provide services. You know, they go in and they provide relief for each other. So.
Thank you.
You would, Mr. Melzer, stay near that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jim Cullen, Curry County Assessor again. I really appreciate Ms. Schmelzer bringing this up today, because if this has been a policy in Curry County since 2015, I wasn't aware of it. You know, I think sticking it out on the county's webpage someplace, same thing as putting it on the shelf and let it collect dust. I can tell you that I am a board member of Coos Curry Electric Cooperative, and they do have an emergency operations plan as well. They should, and as well we should. And we go through that no less than annually as a board. I would encourage you to allow the resources necessary to have Mr. Dumeyer do whatever training is necessary for us to act in the event of emergency. I mean, one thing I saw up there is it's pretty fortunate for all of us that a lot of you got to die before I'm in charge.
But we have a 5-year update we got to do.
Okay, one other thing I would mention, though, I did see on one of your slides, Julie, that you had county accountant as part of the plan. I don't think we have a county accountant, do we? So you may want to update that.
Right. The plan is 5 years old, and Jeremy is in the process of updating it. So some stuff does have to change in there. Thankfully, that's one of the last positions on there that we would go to. But I do want to let the board know too. So Mr. Dumeyer went to training this spring, and part of that training was to come back and teach these courses to everyone so we would be more prepared. So now that he's had the training, we can actually proceed with the policy, get it adopted, and begin that training process.
That was the training in Louisiana? Alabama. I knew I was close.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Boyce?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dumeyer, but Beth Barker Hidalgo had quite a bit to do with this plan in 2015. If I had the right, I'm sure that is the right one. Do you recall?
In looking at the plan recently, and I'm actually scrolling to find it right now on the county website. There we go. I do recall seeing Beth's information on there, as well as Don Kendall, and I believe the assessor was actually part of that plan in 2015, as many county staff were. Again, that's actually in the front pages of the plan as to who the participants were.
He's getting older, so he doesn't remember as well.
I'm not saying a word.
I included the assessor as part of the plan, but I don't think I was part of putting it together.
I think this might be a good time to open up a further conversation about our commissioner responsibility. I know Miss, I'm having that same moment right now. Miss Boniface had some comments that Commissioner Boyce read into the record about, me having information up on the website or having a video as Mayor Pfiffer did down in Brookings. I don't know that it's my place to do that. I think we have the appropriate experts in their field to do that. I think it may be more appropriate as when we asked to have the COVID-19 page put on the website and get that daily information. I think if people want to know where we are in the county, they can go to that page and know how many we have that are infected, how many, hopefully we can get another line put on there now as we learned today that might help. How many have recovered?
We have. As of this morning, that line has been added.
And
to
see
the
how
updates.
quick that all happened? So these are great conversations to have, but I don't think I'm the person that should be giving a status report on the county. I think it's more emergency services and public health. I applaud Mayor Pfiffer for doing it, but I don't. Pieper, I'm sorry. First day with my new lips. But I just don't feel it's my place to do that. I would, again, though, also like to talk about the executive sessions that she brought up. And by state law, we have to do the executive sessions that we do because there are things that our county council advise us on that under state law are not supposed to be talked about in public. I know I've had some people comment to me about the executive session that Commissioner Boyce asked to have put into public session. I think it was in our last meeting, and I asked to have it taken to public or into executive session, and that was to protect Commissioner Boyce from any possible embarrassment or ramifications from that. I know that since that time, people have asked to please bring things out into the public session on this. So I think it's a good time that we start to talk about some of these things because, again, this past week I have heard and seen some things that are very discouraging to me, and I have taken great concern on them, enough to contact some other officials and ask them their opinions on them. I'm glad to see that Ms. Schmelzer, without my asking, put this up on the county website or on the county meeting here just now to discuss what our responsibilities are. And I just want to further discuss, and I'm hopeful that we can, all three of us, discuss in a very calm and concise manner that we realize what our duties are here. I feel my duty as a commissioner is the responsibility of the citizens to set the policy and do the best things that we can do for the county as a board member, but my duties are not to go to someone's office and direct them in any way. I feel as though a commissioner's duty is to act in a group on decisions. Are we to go out in the communities and assist in finding resources for the county and mend fences and find ways to correct some of the things that we think need correcting? Absolutely. But are we to hang notes on commissioners' doors discussing what a bad job they've done, or to go into people's offices or stand in hallways and have arguments with people about the way they're doing their job and how it shouldn't be done? And you even said last week in a meeting that, you know, you might be the emergency services guy here, but if we have another fire in this county, get the hell out of my way.
No, I never use profanity, Mr. Chair.
Well, you didn't maybe say hell, I might have added that, but you did say, and to the best of my recollection, get out of my way. So I just want to have a discussion because it's something that we need to have as a board. We need to be unified on this. And when I have people calling me and writing me with their resignations, and I know I have 4 people that have contacted me with resignations, and to take the chance to lose some of the talented people that we have in this county, I know our budget isn't going to be in balance this year. I know that. I know with this COVID thing, we're going to have such shortfalls in some of the dollars, but to see the work that Ms. Schmelzer did on this budget and Summer Sears, and to see all the stuff that went into this, to walk into this office yesterday with a smile on her face saying we've got a balanced budget here. And again, I understand we're going to have some shortfalls and some hurdles we're going to have to clear. To take the chance to lose these kind of people in this organization, to me, that lowered the bar enough for me to want to talk about it here rather than an executive session, because you said yourself last week you didn't want it in executive session, you wanted it spoke about in open session. And now I've had many citizens say the same thing to me. So I don't know if you want to comment on any of this or not, but I think it's something that as a board we need to discuss.
Well, I welcome the opportunity to comment, and you made one suggestion that I assume you're referencing me, that I went into somebody's office. I have no idea what, frankly, Mr. Chair, what you're referring to there. I did meet somebody in the hallway because I got a nasty look that caught me completely off guard, and that was after I was summoned to, and I'll just say, summoned to Mr. Dumeyer's office, and I took some verbal abuse, and I walked away because I thought it was uncharacteristic of him, and I thought it best in that moment to let it go. The criticism was absolutely, in my opinion, unfounded and irresponsible. And so if you want to have that discussion today and you want to have it outside of in a regular session, we can do that. But what we should be talking about here today is Ms. Schmelzer's resignation, offer to resign. I think the records will clearly show that I worked extremely hard to build bridges with her on at least a bi-weekly basis, and I'll stand with that record. People that elected us to this office, they are counting on us for oversight, full-time responsibility, to understand the emergencies. You used the term, Mr. Chair, once that you didn't want commissioner liaisons, okay? I want to properly quote you here, that's not fair, that's paraphrasing, but basically you were saying you might subvert their efforts. And I was absolutely shocked by that, in that I had a very good relationship with Mr. Kendall. I thought I had a very good relationship with Mr. Dumeyer. But when I asked the slightest question, I believe that Director Smelzer basically took exception to that, because I take my responsibilities very seriously.
Can I comment on your liaison?
I didn't interrupt you, but of course you can.
Well, I'm not trying to interrupt. I'm trying to address things as they go along, and that's the way I
didn't
would hope the
take
conversation.
that option, but go ahead.
As far as my comment on a liaison, I believe a liaison's job is to attend that meeting that you're liaison to, like let's say the Fair Board. Attend the Fair Board's meetings, listen to what they have to say, listen to the directions that they're having, and if they have things that as a board we can address to help them and or push the fair along a little farther and they are asking for our help, that is, in my opinion, the job of a liaison. Not to walk into their board meeting and say, okay, I'm here, and darn it, you're gonna listen to what I got to say, and we're gonna do something.
Have you seen me do that before?
I haven't seen you do it, but I have heard. Yes.
I think that's unfair, and you're the one, Mr. Chair, that used the word subvert. That's an incredible challenge that you made, and it's false, and it's unfair, and it's just unworthy of the truth. So you just put your hand on the counter like that. And I'm here to tell you, I'm completely innocent of that. And even walking out of Mr. Dumeyer's office due to the shock and the verbal abuse, and then I got it later on. And I think that stemmed from the bureaucracy that's forming in our county. This emergency management plan, 5 years old or not, it's worthy of continual visiting, and especially with what our county's been through. But I know my job description. Here it is right here. This is what I won't read it, but it's what we agreed to in January. I'll just read you the first 3 lines. The position of county commissioner is an elected full-time position and responsibility. The 3 commissioners are expected to work hours in excess of the normal business hours established for county employees. I'll go back to Administrator Hitt. I'll go back even to Administrator Schroeder. I'll go back to Director of Operations Smelzer. My record will speak for a tremendous capacity, interest, and effort to build bridges, to listen carefully, and to work well. Now that has changed a little bit. No sign of me giving up, but we do have a letter of resignation that's based on some unsubstantiated assumptions, some negative responses that you had that are absolutely unfair, and we definitely need to address those. I'm tired of being falsely accused because I understand my responsibility. I believe I do, pretty confident there, that my challenge to oversight and be absolutely dedicated to the citizens and their interest. And I don't think you're going to find very many people that are going to argue with that. Okay, if you're getting a lot of emails, they're welcome to contact me. What my attitude has been, what my spirit has been, what my effort has been. So yes, I'll pause so you can respond.
Well, on the Dumeyer thing, I wasn't here that day. Actually, I was out. I think I was just getting back from Washington on that one. But you say that it didn't happen, and some other people said it did. I actually had the sheriff come up to me and say he overheard it and finally broke it up. It was in the hallway out here, and he told everybody to knock it off.
No, that was a different incident. Okay,
Well,
I don't
that's
know
what
what
I'm
we're
saying.
talking
There's been
about.
multiple incidents, but that's the one I was referring to.
That
I was
was-
referring to the one in Mr. Dumeyer's office. Anyway,
no, shed some light on Mr. Dumeyer's office, please.
Okay. All I'm trying to say,
You weren't
Commissioner,
there.
I was not there.
Okay,
All I'm
thank you.
saying is, my mom used to say to me, and they broke up with you, it's time to look in the mirror. And all I'm saying is I've got 4 people that have spoken to me or written to me in the last few months saying that they are very uncomfortable with the situation, the way that they are spoken to, the way that they feel they are ordered, and they are thinking of resigning.
Mr. Chair, if I may, you've used that analogy with your mom just 2 weeks ago. No disrespect intended. But what evidence do you have that I've been demanding to these people? What evidence do you have?
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
And you chose your sides.
That's all we're
That's
here to talk.
unfortunate.
No, I haven't chosen a side. I'm sitting here talking to you right now in a congenial, nice way, just trying to bring this out. Again, we tried to do this in executive session so that it wasn't a public hearing to protect you. I asked for that.
Well,
you didn't even want it. I did it to protect you.
I don't understand that. That's benevolent if that's truly your offer, but I don't understand where that's coming from. So, yeah, we can take a pause here, and I've got plenty more to say if you're interested in hearing.
Yes, sir.
Jim Cullen, Curry County Assessor. I think I was there in referring to the incident that you said occurred in the hallway. I think what you were talking about was actually something that occurred during a department head meeting, a management meeting.
Bulls.
And I was there, and I did witness that, and I was disturbed by that. You know, unfortunately, what I heard, you know, what I saw Mr. Dumeyer start that, and he was actually, in my view, insubordinate in his comments. And I also did see Commissioner Boyce rise to it, and I think it maybe caught him off guard, and it was an unfortunate incident. But if you're not hearing both sides of it, you maybe should check with some of the other people that were there.
Okay, I have checked, and that's what I just said was, okay, now you're rolling your eyes at me and walking away. The sheriff of our county, I checked with him.
Excuse me.
The sheriff of our county I checked with, and he concurred. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to it's not my job to put blame on anyone. And we're not here, this isn't a hearing to put blame on anyone. This is here to try and discuss why certain things in this county are happening that I feel are really putting the talented people that we have working here at risk. And some of that is 4 people coming up to me saying that they're willing to offer their resignation if things don't get better. And that's what we're here to talk about. I'm not accusing Commissioner Boyce of anything. We're trying to have a conversation. I'm telling him what I heard, and he's responding. That's all we're doing here. Council?
Sorry, John Huddle, County Council. And, you know, I observed some of the conduct described. And what I would like to do, you know, is again remind all of us that we're all here for the best interest of the county as an organization and the citizens of the county. As a county's lawyer, you know, I support the idea of acting as an organization and within our scope of responsibilities. You saw, and a lot of this came up in a time of stress, the COVID emergency. So there's an added element of just pressure, you know, on everyone. And I think each one of you elected officials, and I think each one of us appointed officials, has a sense of duty to the organization and the citizens. But I think, as you saw from, you know, and for me as the county council, you know, the basics are the Board of Commissioners act as, you know, 2 out of 3 at least. And I think, and again, I'm probably going to have to mention Commissioner Boyce. I think Commissioner Boyce, you sometimes do things, you know, on your own, out of your own sense of responsibility. And I think some of this came down to who does what in this emergency situation. I think the context of the emergency situation, and I think there was information, and someone else does this and someone else does that. And I think what happened was there was a difference of opinion between staff and perhaps the board and maybe just Commissioner Boyce, but as to who was supposed to do what and how well they were doing it. And so I think it came really out of the organizational, just kind of a dispute over how the organization is supposed to function. And I really think that staff was functioning within its scope and its realm, and that you know, if there was, you know, I saw what I saw to it. That's really all. I don't know if any of you have any questions for me about any of it, but I wasn't personally impacted by some of the things that happened. I don't think I was one of the staff members who was, you know, pointed out as either should have been doing something, and I didn't feel like any commissioner was doing something that was my responsibility delegated to me. But I think there were other staff members who felt that way. So really, that's just the context I want to provide to it. But again, remembering that I think even though it may have not been smooth, I think everyone felt like they were trying to act in the best interest of the county and its citizens. But from the legal point of view, we've all got to stay in our roles and responsibilities as described by the plans, our job descriptions, etc. So it's when someone, you know, goes into somebody else's realm that you have the conflict, and so we've got to stay in our lanes is kind of how I'd put it. So really, I don't have much more to add than that, unless there's questions.
I understand your passion, Commissioner. Since I've known you, I understand your love for this county, and I'm not trying to pick on that. All I'm trying to say is, when you've got an emergency services manager that understands where his space is, and then all of a sudden we have an emergency that he's trained for a long time, and then you try and, for whatever happened, I don't know the conversation, but for whatever happened, feelings got hurt, and everyone felt like they got, like council just said, that they got out of their lane. And that's, I guess, what the gist of the conversation is here is, it's just like as we spoke about in the executive session last week about the task force, the wording of task force and trying to form those kind of things. And then within hours of that executive session, there was an email that went out about exactly what we just talked about, and it was sent anyway. And I believe it was an hour or two later it was sent.
On response to the final, as we come out of executive session, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And yes, I still have an issue with that. That wasn't what we agreed on. You added the line in relation to Mr. Dumeier. Related to that, Mr. Chair, to this day, I don't know what I did wrong with Emergency Management Coordinator Dumeier. Okay, number one. Even when I walked out of his office, after being summoned to his office, going there with respect, the right spirit, the right attitude, I think he would agree. I don't know what happened. And then it happened more later. Now, I need the public to know I have had some objections with some decisions that he's made, right or wrong. I could be wrong, it could be right. And so eventually I was able to voice those to him, but I was not given the respect and the connection to be able to even talk to him. And being too busy to talk to a commissioner, not to answer emails, is not an excuse with the responsibility and the load that we're all carrying. So yes, that brings tension unnecessarily in my view. The subsequent meetings where I felt personally attacked, that may just end up being a mystery forever. And perhaps nothing we can remedy. When it comes to the fires, yeah, I've built a relationship that I don't need to repeat today, but I'm going to be, when it hits again, you know, I'm going to be there. If I can't work with Mr. Dumeier, then I'm not going, the board will have to remove me or something from that position, because I know what my job is there and the level of risk that this county has. And I appreciate your comments about my passion. And so I'll take that as a very positive sign. And beyond that, referring to what Councilor Huddle said, you know, I'm shocked that we got here. Never in 100 days would have thought that this would be the route that went in the process of the breakdown. I tried to stop it and was unable to. And I don't know where that come from, except the people in this county, a good portion think that there's a bureaucracy developing here with a director of administration or county administrator, however you want to say it, that takes control. And despite what we just saw on the screen there, that can be an issue. And, you know, a perfect example is we had a very important meeting today on Oregon State Parks. 1 o'clock it was scheduled. And for some reason we had the board meeting scheduled today at 1, and I said, could we just have a half hour so we can get on this with the state of Oregon at AOC, Greg Wolf, Oregon Solutions. And so we were not represented in that meeting, and I think that could have been avoided. How were we represented?
So Commissioner, yes, you put an email in my door last night and you highlighted the name of a meeting and the time, and I thought that meant that you were going to go to that and not to this meeting, but anyways, and then later this morning I actually saw an email from you asking if we could push the meeting back, and I did respond that we were not able to because we knew that we had speakers lined up, we had talked to Ginny, and we knew that people were coming, so we couldn't push the meeting back. But I did let you know that I did find somebody to sit on that call. So Cherie Ward had the call-in number and everything, so that was one of them. So she did cover that for us as well.
What does she have to do, Director Smelser, with that responsibility?
Well,
and as busy as she is, I'm surprised by that.
Well, I needed to make sure that somebody was addressing the meeting. What the meeting was it was the state talking about how the state is going to open the state parks.
Yes.
So
we should have been, okay. So you feel we had adequate representation.
I do.
When you scheduled this meeting, I felt like I was the last to know that it was going to be 1 o'clock today.
So I did.
And that seems to be fairly consistent. And I've had heart-to-hearts with you on past boards and give you evidence of that being somewhat consistent. So and even offering an oversensitivity to that.
So I did send an email out last Friday to all commissioners, letting them know that we would have a meeting today. Since I knew everybody would be here for the budget meeting anyway, that we would have a meeting today.
Okay.
That went out on last Friday.
When you found out we had a 1 o'clock with the Oregon Parks, you could have gone to 1:30 perhaps?
I did not find out about that meeting until less than 24 hours before the meeting.
Okay, I'm going to take you for your word on that. Okay, that subject can go away. The point is, sometimes I feel like I'm the last to know. I'm the least one that spends time in your office. That's not for a lack of disinterest or indifference to your job and what you're dealing with, but I think you can make the case that I'm the last one to know often.
Commissioner, you're very respectful of my time and space, I have to tell you that. But I do try to notify all commissioners at the same time of the meetings. What happened, so the public knows, is Commissioner Pash, when he was in the office last Friday morning, asked if we could have a meeting to discuss transition planning. I looked at the schedule. I said, we're here Wednesday. I didn't want to have a special meeting because I didn't know how we would, because we had budget meetings and we had a compensation committee meeting. I didn't know how long the budget committee meeting was going to go on Tuesday. I was hoping that we could at least be done Wednesday by noon. So I scheduled it for the first available time slot, which was today at 1. And I did set that last Friday.
Okay, do you think my concerns are sometimes being the last to know, real or perceived, is even somewhat valid?
I do not.
You do not?
No, I do not.
Compared to your relationship with the other two commissioners?
Right, I don't. When it comes to that, I try to notify you all at the same time.
Okay. So here we are. I don't know how in the world we got here with the scheduled resignation of Director Smelser in July.
Well, not only those, but 3 more.
Okay, you want to name those 3?
No, I don't. I really
Why?
don't. But there are 3 more.
So now you don't want to name those folks. So I have no defense.
Well, I'm not asking you to defend anything, sir. All I'm saying is that these are.
No, but the public hears, Mr. Chair, that they're thinking about resigning because I pound my fist on the table.
But there are other things that
might be true
that contribute to that. I mean, again, do you want to go into all of it?
Sure.
Do you think it was proper to hang the letter that you hung on Commissioner Gold's door? Was that proper?
It was long overdue. I can offer you that, and I'll stand by the things that were communicated in that letter that have hurt this county financially, legally, reputation, all the above. So no, I'm.
To me,
Is she going to quit? Is she one of the 4 that are going to quit?
do you think your emails to me are proper?
Absolutely, I do. You accused me, sir, of damaging county property and not filing a report. Damaging county property, number 1, is false. I've asked you to provide some evidence, and you have not done that yet. I also asked you to please tell me who you BC'd on that so I could know who is getting bad information from you.
I think the only people I've CC'd on those...
Where's your evidence? That's what I'm interested in.
On what?
On me, you accused me of damaging county property.
What I said was that there was some county property that was damaged while it was in your charge, and that's the pickup truck that you took from Parks Department.
What evidence do you have on that?
And you took your private boat behind that truck. You took your personal boat and took it up to Agnes. Am I correct?
That is.
You used a county vehicle to take your boat up to Agnes.
Because the truck I bought from you broke down, sir, and I called you on your way to Memphis. Hey, you got any other vehicles?
It can't be here.
Huh?
Doesn't matter how that
does matter.
transpired. Did you take a county vehicle up to Agnes, and then when it came back,
yes, I used my vehicles for county business day after day after day after day.
We're not going there, sir. I just asked you a direct question. I just asked you a question.
But you said I damaged that property. I need evidence of
when
that.
It came back, our parks director, Josh, told us that the back fender of that truck was damaged, and it had fresh mud on it. And
it's absolute hogwash. He made that up.
I went out and took pictures of it, sir.
Okay.
I have the pictures.
Okay. It was sitting over there with mud on it for 2 months not being used.
Okay.
I needed a vehicle after I wore my vehicles out over the travel issue that I continually dealt with. So here we are.
So what I'm asking you is the personal emails that you send me, though, that I ask you not to send me anymore. Do you think that that's proper? When you call me, you email me and say, Commissioner, when were you going to let me know we weren't going to have a private, you weren't going to be at the meeting? I said I was going to handle the meeting from the web, and you said you can't do that. Do you remember those emails?
You know, I voted twice in a row to make you chair, and you were going to conduct a meeting with a 7-second delay out of, I think, arrogance. You didn't want me to, or whatever reason, and I was just appalled by that. And we knew that couldn't work. It didn't work. You called in another employee that was sick to deal with it, to help Eric in the back room, and I think that was inappropriate. Just because you had an issue with me running the meeting
I have
that
an issue
day.
at all, sir. I just said
Why didn't you just let that go?
in my response to you was, this, first of all, this is an improper email, but secondly, let's try and do the meeting this way, and if it doesn't work, then you take it, was my words.
So you're going to run the meeting by telephone. Do you think your email to Treasurer Crumley was proper when she voiced an opinion on the OpenGov program?
What was my email to her?
You basically verbally cuffed her and said, why don't you get over it? I was stunned by that. And let's get down to
because the board had already voted on it, you mean?
Well, I don't know.
You needed to get over it.
I thought it was...
move on.
Okay, you asked me, I responded to you in the emails, as I have responsibility to do, and which, by the way, illegal meeting, let's talk about that. Here's what I got from Director Smelzer Monday at 1:20 p.m. After I got your email, the basics I want to read to the public. It also seems we will need to reopen some things talked about in last week's executive meeting as hopes of saving the county another black eye and much embarrassment, not to mention the possible lawsuits and resignations. I would like to get this all out after our Wednesday budget meeting, okay? You're following through with that. The point is this.
I just want to move on.
You want to move on? Well, we got one more issue to cover here in the interest of searching for the facts and the truth. And I still haven't got an answer. You got pictures of the pickup that's 20 years old that I put in 3 times the fuel so I could more than cover the county expenses times 3. I filed the miles with facilities maintenance Tad before I left. They helped me get the keys. I was in a bind. My rigs were gone. I used my hundreds and hundreds of miles on my personal rig, so I'm just appalled. So here we go. On April 20th, 1:20 p.m., I would like to put an end to you. This is from Julie Smelzer. I would like, and she's referring to Jim Colon, I presume, put an end to you and Jim calling other commissioners about me. I am aware you and Jim called Chris on a Sunday evening trying to prevent me from coming to work after my vacation. First of all, I've not talked to either one of you commissioners, okay, about the future of Julie Smelzer. I think I've been your biggest support. That's the truth. You know, that's the biggest. So I want the public to know that being accused of talking to the other two commissioners is absolutely not true about the future of Ms. Smelzer. And then she says, and I don't know where she got this, but something needs to come out here for truth. I am aware you and Jim called Chris on a Sunday evening trying to prevent me from coming to work after my vacation. Commissioner Pash, when's the last time you and I talked on the phone under any circumstances?
Well, I don't remember a phone call. I remember some email, but I don't know as I recall a phone.
Well, it says here, you better produce the email then, where I emailed you or phoned you and said, we've got to do something about Director Smelzer.
I probably have something like that.
Okay, well, I really need that along with the evidence other than pictures you took of a 20-year-old truck that sat in the parking lot for 2 years, excuse me. Personnel attendance is something the board discussed, so the phone call was an illegal meeting. I don't know what else I can say, sir. I didn't talk to you. I don't believe Assessor Colon did, so somebody's not given the straight of it here. And the public...
I don't recall ever speaking to Assessor Colon about Ms. Smelzer.
So I can comment on that real quick. So court asked court did ask why the board would be having this meeting today, or what a portion of the meeting was about. And I told him I believe that commissioners have some things they want to discuss. And then I told him, as a side note, in parentheses, I'm also very frustrated. I feel that basically that he was working with someone to try and get me fired and try and prevent me from coming to work. And I have good reason to believe that. Again, it's not something that I want aired here, but I do feel that I have concerns about emails back and forth between commissioners when they shouldn't be happening, or people trying to prevent other people from coming to the office, or things of that nature.
I'm not following you. I'm sorry. Prevent other people from coming to the office. I'm not catching that. Regarding?
Well, when I got back from vacation, it was very clear that Commissioner Boyce, you did not want me here.
Oh, that's the email that I have.
You even put that in an email.
But I didn't send that to you. No. I didn't send it to anyone.
I also have
Not even
emails
Council
from you
Huddle.
saying, how dare I come back to the office without having a doctor's permission when I came back from Washington.
I'm sorry.
I should not be here, absolutely
Mr.
couldn't.
Chair, I did not say how dare you. You want me to read you that email?
It's
very milquetoast. It's very challenging. I was trying to protect you. Okay. If I come into this office sick off of a plane, I have a responsibility and a duty. You missed all kinds of work. What do you mean you weren't sick? I have every responsibility and duty to the people I work with to either have a mask on or to not show up for work without a doctor's deal. My letter to you, my email to you was very respectful. And I can read it to the public if you like. It was only about 4 sentences. I know you wouldn't do anything to hurt the county, but I was surprised that you came here and so when it comes back to Director Smelzer, I did very respectfully suggest that you consider, didn't demand, I don't even think it was under the ask category. I said, would you consider self-quarantine for 14 days? That's when Mr. Dumeyer basically said, you're creating fear-mongering. You're creating hysteria. You are irrational. Are you kidding me?
I don't think Mr. Dumeyer said that in relation to that matter at all.
He said it on September 9th, excuse me. He
because
said
I don't
it
think
on
he
March
was.
19th.
I don't even know if he was aware of the email that you sent me, but There were others.
That was between you and I. That was to encourage you to.
Yeah, that's why I said
That was
I
my
would.
responsibility.
And there were other emails about it, but that's why I said I would prefer not to drag my personal stuff between you and I into
Okay,
the
but
meeting.
you had a decision to make,
And I did come
you
back to
wanted to
work.
get back to work. If you ever got a negative email, okay, I'm surprised, and I hope you're wrong.
But I don't want to talk about them here.
Okay, the point is what? I've supported you, and you come back from Hawaii, you went through 2 different strategic airports that were highly volatile. I told you, I doubt if any of us are carrying, okay? What am I here for? What are you here for? To blow this off and minimize the threat and say, no, yeah, the president 2 months earlier said, we're stopping all traffic from China, for goodness sakes. So it was not unreasonable what I asked you. I didn't demand,
I can say
and
this.
I welcomed you when you got back.
Yeah, and you did tell me I should make a public press release to the public about my vacation and me coming back to work.
No.
Yeah, I have that. But anyway,
Excuse
I
me.
did follow the CDC guidelines for anyone watching. This was when the COVID thing just started. I followed all the guidelines from it. You know, doubled up on zinc, emergency, hand sanitizer so much that I
Yeah,
can
but
no longer paint my nails.
Ms.
My
Smelzer,
nails
you
got
took a
soft,
risk.
but-
You took a risk in that, I know you want to close this.
I took a
but we-
vacation with my children that I do not see because I work for Curry County,
Did
and my
I-
children are in Wisconsin.
Did I encourage you to go in a really positive spirit?
You did.
Okay, thank you.
You did.
So, but you did come back, and things were very stressful. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of tension, and people were watching how we conducted our business here.
Right.
You decided to come in anyway, okay? Did you get a lot of growl from me? I didn't support you, but I didn't have any verbal comments that were negative. I tried to make the most of it. I tried to support you. I give you a tremendous positive email after that.
Drop it.
Commissioner Gold?
I think we're here for the purpose to improve the situation. And I've been on many boards and had many trainings, and there's 2 things that stand out as a board member. Number 1, we're there to set policy. Number 2, when we act as a board member, we act together. We don't act as an individual. Those are the 2 things, and I think if we abided by those 2 things, we would get along a whole lot better.
And I would like to say that in public again. Ms. Schmelzer was hired to be Director of Operations. And when our accountant decided to, what would you call her position again? What was it again? Yeah, the county accountant finance director decided to leave. Ms. Schmelzer said, I'll take that for now, don't worry about it. When we got handed public health back again, Ms. Schmelzer said, don't worry about it, I'll take that. I can handle that for now until we can find someone else, even while being picked on by another organization. Met the challenges. And I find you as a very valuable employee to this organization, this county, as I do everyone. And I guess I want to be a little bit protective that we don't lose people because it's so hard to find good people here. And I want to make sure that we understand our jobs. And our jobs are to stay within a parameter and not to leave that. Ms. Schmelzer doesn't work for me. Summer Matheson, Mr. Dumar, whoever, they don't work for us. We don't go in their office and direct them to do things. We, as a board, decide to do something, and then, Ms. Schmelzer puts things on our agenda. Then she handles what we address her to do. It's not our job to get out of that lane and go in and start saying, if this doesn't happen, get out of my way, in whatever office that may be. And all I'm saying is we need to be, perhaps more careful. The state said to us, don't be looking at these task force things. You're not allowed to do that. And within hours of our last meeting, another letter was sent out on having a task force. And now I've been told that city leaders were contacted about forming a task force, and hopefully the city can work to show the county and work with the county on how to deal with all this. And Commissioner, I want to say that I appreciate that you're wanting to work to move things forward and get us out of this. But when the state tells you there will be no task forces, those words won't be used.
Here's for the, let me interrupt.
And we still move forward with that after an executive session saying we weren't going to do that. It's concerning to me.
Well, here's where I'm going to go with that, with all due respect, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to go back to the accusation. It's either from you or Director Smelzer that I talked to the commissioners about her. It's false. I want the public to know it's completely false. And that on a Sunday evening, I contacted you by telephone or email. Completely false. So somebody's not being honest here. Somebody is giving some information there that's going out into the public. I don't have a clue how many BCCs.
Commissioner,
okay.
Nobody knows about that email other than you.
Okay, but we know it's not true, okay? I mean, a lie detector only takes $300, so I could, I don't need that, but I'll sure offer that. So I want to know, that's still not been addressed here.
Let her speak.
I'm sorry.
Let's cut to the chase here. The reason why I put in my resignation is because I cannot work in an unethical organization, and I feel that there are some unethical things going on. I've seen them, and I don't want to be a part of it. We cannot have illegal meetings. We cannot be emailing other commissioners. We can't be sending stuff out and blind copying a bunch of people, and then those blind copies getting back to us. It makes us look bad. This whole conversation right now is extremely embarrassing. The public puts their trust in us, and we've fought this entire year to gain that trust. And there's other things. There's constant, and not from you, Commissioner Boyce, but, just other people within the organization just being that little chihuahua, always trying to nip at the heels. No matter what you do, always biting at your heels, just because they may have an issue with you. What we need to do is act ethically and morally and lead the county in doing the right things. And if you don't like somebody, shut up and deal with it. I'm serious. Okay. And I'm not saying you, Commissioner Boyce. I'm just saying there's people out there that make coming to work really difficult when they're constantly trying to go behind the scenes and sabotage you and sabotage your work. I'm very confident with my abilities. I know I do a good job. I know I've got great plans for the county. I'm like Commissioner Boyce, I'm extremely passionate about it. But I'm not gonna sacrifice my reputation when I feel I'm in a sinking ship. And I want to add, I give up everybody here has the luxury of seeing their kids or seeing their families. I don't get to see my kids. My kids are 2,000 miles away, and that's the sacrifice I made to help a county. And when I get criticized for seeing my children in a time where I felt it was safe and had everything organized before I left, COVID crisis had just started. I had organized everything. I had sent directions out to staff, to department heads. Everything was in order. I was on vacation 4 days. I cut my week vacation short because I'm getting emails and messages about everything tumbling down. There's arguments, there's fighting, people are panicking. And I came back, barricaded myself in my office to make sure nobody was afraid that I had cooties or something when I came back. And we got everything back on track. I felt like I could not even leave the county for 4 days without everything falling apart. And it should not work that way. And if that's the effect I'm having on a county, then I shouldn't be here, because the county needs to function for the day that I'm not here. It was a lot of stress. And then I see, I'm hearing conversations where people are contacting the public health administrator to not let me come here. And I'm seeing all these other emails about people saying stuff wasn't done and they're putting the blame on me. I did what I was supposed to do. We have processes, we have protocols, we have professionals in place that are supposed to lead us on that. That's not with you, Commissioner Boyce. I'm just saying throughout the whole organization. Yeah,
but this whole conversation, if I may, is surrounded about me and my, you challenge the ethics of elected officials. I don't know if that's David Brock Smith or Sheriff Ward or me or Jim Cullen or Debbie Crumley, I don't know, but I took exception to that, and I know that I have not done anything with you that lacked the highest of ethics, and I'm going to stand by that, and I think the emails clearly demonstrate that, and I want the public to know that's what my position has been here. That's how hard I went to work with Schroeder, Hitt, and you, and make that work, and work with the other commissioners. So yeah, I've got some. When it comes to within hours, that's also falls, Mr. Chair, and I'll come back to that. I cut you off. I didn't mean to. Please continue. And then I want to talk about the goals on the task force and how that rubbed the state of Oregon the wrong way, apparently, which I find very hard to believe. But go ahead.
I guess the biggest thing for me, just to summarize, is, and Commissioner Boyce, I did share this with you. I was not happy with the letter that you put on Commissioner Gold's door, and you and I had it out that night, and life was good after that. But then also I know that there's emails and, you know, where Commissioner Pash has even said, don't email me anymore. And that stuff, we just have to keep moving forward. We can't, and I know so much stuff is innocent. We're just trying to get work done. But when it comes back, you know, stuff is sent blind copied, I think, to people, or somehow gets leaked out and it's coming back. Man, there's a lot of damage control on that one, and we can't be doing that. We have to keep working as a team.
I apologize for interrupting. I'm not doing the BCC thing. Over said and done, and I have an email that assures you that I would not do that to you, because I think it stinks.
Well, maybe not to me, but I have seen BCC. People send us stuff that they get. So I know that there's BCCs out there. We just got to watch it. We just got to watch it.
Well, meanwhile, though, this still hasn't been issued. This still hasn't been addressed. Commissioner Boyce, and I think that Assessor Cullen is accused of calling you on a Sunday night. I don't know where that came from.
Maybe I have that misunderstood, but I do know
Well,
that
who told you that?
Assessor Cullen was calling commissioners. I think he even called or spoke to Commissioner Gold too. So again, I didn't want my stuff brought into this. I think the whole issue was more about the issues that the commissioners had.
You want to address it?
Thank you, Commissioners. Jim Cullen, Curry County Assessor. I actually have several comments to make with regards to Ms. Schmelzer's actions. And I don't know whether or not you want to take this to executive session, because
I don't know as all the actions are, all your comments are going to be really necessary, Assessor. I was just asking you if you would comment on the thing that Commissioner Boyce is asking about calling. Did you call someone?
What?
Did you call someone, as this letter says, about asking Ms. Schmelzer not to come back to work after her trip to Hawaii?
Well, let me go through this way. In a resignation letter, Ms. Schmelzer says that the organization is full of deceit and direct efforts to undermine the board. Then she further goes on to say, by some of our elected officials. I'm presuming one of those elected officials she's referring to is me. And the reason I presume that is because of her email to Court Boyce dated Monday, April the 20th. She copied John Huddle on that, so I mean, Court's not the only one who knows about it. And there's an out-and-out fabrication in that she said I was party to an illegal meeting with you, Commissioner Pash, and Commissioner Boyce. I mean, so she's throwing you under the bus on this one too. I don't know about you, but having your director of operations go around spreading untruths about elected officials, I don't know what I did to deserve that. And then apparently I'm also one of the people that's nipping at people's heels. I don't know what that's about. I'd be interested to find out what that's about. Now, what I would say, in answer to your question, Commissioner Passion, yes, I did call my liaison commissioner, Commissioner Gold, before Julie came back, and suggested that since Julie is flying back through a high-risk area, wouldn't it be prudent to possibly have her work from home for 2 weeks? We have a lot of employees working from home for 2 weeks, and there's no reason why our director couldn't have done that as well.
Okay, thank you.
But she goes on to say,
Well, as far as the rest of it goes, I'd like to leave
well,
it.
she goes on to say that,
Mr. Colon?
well, just a second.
I'd like to
just a
stop this.
second.
I would like to stop this here, sir.
She goes on to say, in general, the betrayal I feel,
Mr. Colon,
of you and Jim working.
Do you want me to gavel you?
To try
Really?
and get me fired.
Do you really want me to gavel you, sir?
I would like to know what that's about.
I'm asking you to step away from the microphone.
Why?
Please. Because this is not what the question was. I asked a direct question and he answered it. And this is not to sit here and try this. If this is something that you want to bring up in executive session, then this is fine. But
well, let's go to executive session.
I can interject here and just say it is a matter that may be the subject of litigation, so it should not be discussed in open session.
Then let's go to executive session.
Yes, sir. Let's just wait 1 minute here. Council Huddle, do you have a comment on it?
What choice do we have?
I just don't know if we need to litigate this in executive session. These are all going to be. This is a lot of hyperbole and.
It's not hyperbole, for goodness sakes.
Again,
We're falsely accused.
I've also been told that there is going to be litigation brought from this by an elected official. And I don't know if this is something then, if that's going to happen, that it should be discussed in any session. So that is why I'm asking for our council's expertise in this, Commissioner Boyce.
I just want to kind of go back to the comments I made earlier that the board acts as a two votes out of 3 members is board action. I have not been provided with a copy of Director Schmelzer's letter. I'm not prepared to discuss that in executive session. We would only go into executive session or continue any meeting on a vote of 2 out of 3 of the board members. I was going to talk about something different in executive session. And so if we're not going to talk about that, then I don't know that you need to continue the meeting any further. You could do a motion to adjourn and be done.
Well, my reason for not wanting it in executive session is more from a legal aspect. If there's a possible lawsuit, this should not be spoken, shouldn't be talked about, and that's what I was asking for your legal opinion.
Possible lawsuits is a topic of executive session.
No, what I'm saying is the facts of what we're going to discuss could be the actual litigated items in that lawsuit, so therefore it should not be discussed.
Shouldn't be discussed in open meeting, and typically we discuss lawsuits once a claim is made against the county, we have knowledge of it, and then we can do litigation or litigation likely to be filed. And right now I don't have enough information to say one way or the other whether we have that. So I would just say I was going to talk about a different matter of litigation that we're currently in with something else, but not anything that's coming up at this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Council. Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a 50-50 chance if we go into executive session, something good will come out of it. Okay? I don't think we have the luxury of just ignoring what's before us here and walking away. I'm not saying you're suggesting that. But based on the challenge I just offered you, the 50-50 chance of something good happening, I just want the citizens to know that my ethics are absolutely the most important thing in my life, and other than my faith and my family. So we might be able to come out of this in a real good way, but we can't ignore there's some false accusations here, and the public could buy into that. And that affects me in this county and this state, all the above. Thank you.
What I'd like to say is what you deem as false.
Okay, I've not had any phone calls with you since shortly after you're elected, sir. Not one. And no emails other than when I ask you.
Well, but I think Ms. Schmelzer's already qualified that in saying she may have been wrong on the actual phone call part. So again, I just don't know if there's going to be much fruit born from an executive session on this, only because it's going to turn into a stone throwing contest, and I don't think that's going to produce anything positive.
Mr. Chair, did you tell her that I called you on a Sunday evening?
I don't recall if I told her you called me or if I told her I had an email. I'm almost certain I saw an email, and again, I'm not 100% certain, but I do believe I saw an email from you asking her not to come to work.
Well, I can read that email to you.
Can we read the email that I sent you, Commissioner Boyce, because I think you're taking it a little out of context.
No, he can't remember. You do know that we haven't had a phone conversation in well over a year, correct?
We have had phone conversations over, and I don't recall what they were about, but yes, if I were to look on my cell phone, because they were on my cell phone, not the county phone, I could produce some phone calls from you, yes, in the last year.
I'm going to ask you to do that because I don't recall any phone calls with you since just after you were elected. So if that's the case, we are participating in an illegal meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why I've repeatedly asked you to please not do that. And I've done it on several occasions, and that's why you asked me for my email lists and all that stuff.
What?
And you've asked me you said you were going to ask for a records request from who I CC'd my emails to. I will tell you, I've CC'd my emails to the Director of Operations for the county, County Council, and Sheriff Ward. And those are the three that I have CC'd on my responses to you, because those are the three people that run this county.
Name them again, please.
Administrator, County Council, because he's the legal aspect of the county to protect us, and our sheriff.
So you put them in the category of running the county. Okay. All right. I want to come back to real quick that you claim that you and I've had phone conversation in the last couple of months, last 8 months.
I'm not sure how many months, how many and in how many months ago it was, but since I have been elected, I am certain of it. If it's been within the last year, I'm almost certain, and if it's been within the last 6 months, I would probably be less certain.
Okay, thank you, because we're accused of having a phone call.
That email says, in my opinion or my understanding,
Yeah, but somebody told you that.
And that was just that whole sentence is being taken out of context, because the whole email was about you questioning why the commissioners wanted to meet today or have something on the agenda, I think.
Okay, what I want to say is this, though. How do we move past all this? Because you know what? It's been my pleasure to serve on this board, and we have made strides in moving this county forward. Again, I know we're going to have shortfalls in our budget, but for the first time in how long, we actually had budget meetings that were productive, with the possibility of coming very close to having a balanced budget and taking minimums out of our reserve of road fund money. We've moved so many things forward in this county in the last 15 months. It's been my pleasure to be here. So I want to know how we get past all this, and let's stop with all the this and that, and let's follow the laws that we are bound by, and follow, the rules of, what our jobs are and who is really in control of their respective positions, and let them do their jobs and not micromanage them.
We're on the wrong, forgive me, but we're on the wrong subject. That's not the issue here. The issue is I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I'm being accused of contacting you. Here's the email I sent to Ms. Smelzer on the 20th. I want the public to hear this. Won't take very long. Good day, Director Smelzer, San Fran and Seattle Airport concerns. Regarding your return, my personal preference, and I have others who agree, but I want to state here, I have not talked to Jim Colon, Assessor Colon, about any of this with you. Never. I don't think I talked to anyone, in particular not to commissioners. Regarding your return, my personal preference, and I have others who agree, in the interest of being extra careful, please consider perhaps a 2-week self-quarantine. I'm hearing from HR that you may have inherited Clark Schroeder's phone. Not sure, question mark. A Verizon County phone that can be set up together to tether a personal hotspot for your county computer. It will enable you to work off campus, plus you would also have a spare phone line. Thanks, my best. Okay, and you responded, nothing improper or anything. The point is this, I'm being accused of telling you or demanding, or it's just hogwash. I'm sorry.
I don't know how this all turned to me, because this was, I think this whole, there was a...
But you've accused me of unethics. I assume you were talking about me when you sent
Well,
your letter of resignation.
I do see emails that go to other commissioners. I see
well, let's get those emails out in the public.
and things that are blind, and a lot of things that are blind copied to other people. One was a blind one was to the sheriff. You've blind copied stuff to the sheriff and it gets back to us. So, I mean,
But nobody's produced that email yet. I've asked for it, and nobody's produced that.
I could. I mean,
I appreciate that.
I
I'd
had
love
no
to see
idea we
that.
were going to get into the weeds here today on this stuff, or I would have brought all those emails.
Well, have you emailed me, Commissioner?
Yes, twice.
And
yes,
for the record, I believe I've given this board advice in the past, and I'll repeat it today, but the Attorney General has made an opinion that, contemporaneous emails between a majority of the board, a quorum, 2 out of 3, we're kind of hamstrung there, can constitute a public meeting. And as we know, because a public meeting is any time a quorum of the commissioners is getting together to discuss county business. And so because of our new ways to communicate electronically, the Attorney General has opined that a contemporaneous exchange of emails between a majority of a governing body can be a public meeting. And as we know, under the public meetings law, we have to put out notices of agendas, and we have to, take minutes and those kind of things. And so I think in a very basic way, I think Director Schmelzer is identifying that type of conduct as not following the ethical rules or the public meetings laws. I mean, that may be one example. And so I will, again, I believe I've told you this, it's very basic. You should not be emailing each other about county business. And that's the bottom line. You should be conducting your business in these kind of meetings as much as possible. So that's something I think I've said before. It's no secret. That's the Attorney General's opinion. And so if that's one of the items that Director Schmelzer is talking about, is that a violation of state ethics laws? Perhaps not. It'd be a violation of the public meetings law. They're slightly different. Sometimes OGEC enforces public meetings law, so there is some kind of a gray area there. But anyway, that's just kind of my take on what we're talking about. And I feel like, just from my point of view, we belabored that point enough. And if there's nothing else to talk about, I think perhaps adjourning would make a lot of sense.
I have one more thing.
We do have that. We do have an executive session item that we have to deal with.
All right.
Commissioner Boyce?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you said within hours, after the state objected and the board objected to a potential task force. That's not accurate. Last Friday, I was contacted by one of the city administrators. Later on, it became 2 and 3. We had a great conversation, involved some other community people that really are interested in helping. But I want to offer the public, here's what my board in the state of Oregon apparently found objectionable. This was written on April 8th. Goals of the Curry County Coronavirus Response Team would establish 8 primary objectives, which are Curry Coronavirus Team Task Force. It's a proposal, and I showed all of you the line, it wasn't in bold, but it was separate, that basically this would have to go before the Board of Commissioners, okay? But here's the 8 goals real quickly. Do everything possible to keep the Curry positive cases to a critical minimum. There was no test positive in Curry County at that time. April 8th, minimize loss of lives of Curry citizens due to the COVID-19 virus through education, mitigation, outreach, and containment. Protect our medical system from being overwhelmed with COVID-19 cases by coordinating long-term strategic response plans that identify local thresholds with appropriate local strategic and tactical life-saving responses. Fully push for the safety of all healthcare providers by facilitating the acquisition and distribution of available PPE by utilizing local, state, and federal resources. Ensure appropriate, timely, and coordinated communications to cooperators and the public for better outcomes in the short term and long term. Support operational needs by leveraging available Curry County resources, food awareness assistance, and helping our Curry food banks. Economic recovery, that's a long one, but it lists all the agencies and programs that would be beneficial to our county. The reason I take the time to read that, Mr. Chair, is because I can't understand how that could be interpreted as doing the state's job or stepping in their way, or in any way the city administrators are going to do something that's going to undermine. I think this is my responsibility to bring the jurisdictions together, so to have the public hear that just hours or moments after the board turned me down on this, that I did it again. No, they contacted me and I got the emails, okay, just so you understand.
Council Huddle?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think Commissioner Boyce said that those are what was objectionable to the Board of Commissioners. I don't believe the talking points were objectionable to the Board of Commissioners. And I believe the Director of Operations pointed out, she went down every single one of those and explained how staff is already doing that, and that the state felt like, and our staff of course follows the OEM, Office of Emergency Management, and the Office of Oregon Health Authority, and those kind of things. And because this was outside of that, and also because it didn't follow our emergency operations plan, that was the objectionable nature of it, was the individual commissioner acting alone outside the Board of Commissioners authority. And Commissioner Boyce said this would be subject to approval, but he kind of said that after he already started it. So it's kind of, I think that was the objectionable part, Commissioner Boyce, by the board. Just your individual action before going to the board, while we already have people doing that, causing confusion, and then causing them having to answer a bunch of questions from people while they already had a lot of work to do. So that was kind of what I understood it to be. I was at that meeting. I think that's what came out of it. But really, Mr. Chair, I feel like we're kind of repeating ourselves, essentially asking the board to follow the law, to act as a body that's 2 out of 3 when you're acting together in public meetings, and after you've delegated tasks to staff, to just have staff do those tasks and not interfere with their job to the point where even state authorities find it objectionable. I don't know that there's much more we can talk about on this subject.
Just staying on our lanes as commissioners, that's
very
all.
Good.
Anyone else have anything further?
Yeah, I do have one more thing. Just going back to Ms. Schmelzer's email on Monday, where she accused the 3 of us of having an illegal meeting. I would like to say it might be worth your while as commissioners to take a run through the personnel rules, because in the personnel rules it's going to tell you that it's against the personnel rules to make false statements against other county employees.
Okay.
That was a false statement. One of the interesting things about the personnel rules, and what makes it difficult in this case, is the county personnel rules set up the Director of Operations to be the ultimate authority in charge of the personnel rules. The commissioners set the policy for the personnel rules. The Director of Operations administers them. And if you have a situation where the Director of Operations is violating the personnel rules, I mean, at worst, at best, she is just making up unsubstantiated
That's good.
errors.
That's good. Thank you.
I do want to just clarify one thing. It does say, in my opinion, or it is my understanding, and that was an email to Commissioner Boyce.
Okay.
explaining to him that that was my understanding or my opinion.
Yeah, we still
That was
haven't gotten
not
to-
stated as a fact, and it was not distributed to anyone else.
Okay,
So, thank
this
you.
ends this meeting. I am going to, we're going to go into recess on this meeting and enter into executive session ORS 192-6602H to confer with legal counsel on rights and remedies in regard to litigation, and nothing further about what this current conversation has been will be discussed in executive session.
If yours is the next big idea, and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love, and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you, and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
Hi there, I'm Patrick Priest, Executive Director at CIS. And I really enjoy coming every year to this conference because CIS, we are all about counties. We are owned by counties. We were formed by the AOC. This is a great occasion for us to meet everybody in one place and learn what's important to the counties all across Oregon.
It's the networking. I mean, we learn a lot about the different issues that counties deal with, but it's networking with other commissioners, getting ideas on how they handle situations that is the most helpful for me.
I love my job. It actually matters to me on a daily basis. I used to do a lot of charity, and, you know, in commissioning in Deschutes County, you can make a serious difference. Lots of things have happened since I've been in office, and I feel like it's important to represent the people. I grew up in Eastern Oregon, and I love the residents of Eastern Oregon. The architect of our first house actually had Doris Day as a dear friend and a client, and he would bring Doris Day up the mountains in Malibu to our house as it was being built.
This is my fourth conference at AOC. My favorite part is the fellowship with other commissioners and coming up with solutions with common situations and with commissioners from around the state to best serve our people. My favorite part about being a commissioner in Josephine County is the people that we work with. We live in the most beautiful place, but we have the most beautiful people. They are talented, artistic, caring. We have such a high level of philanthropy and just caring for our fellow citizens, and it's the best place in all of Oregon.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Martha Schrader from Clackamas County, Oregon. I'm the current president of the Association of Oregon Counties. And oh my goodness, I've been president for 1 year, but I've been a member of the Association of Oregon Counties since 2003. So one of the reasons I really wanted to be president, and I've enjoyed it so much, is because I get to know everybody across the state, all the commissioners, and I've been from one end of the state to the other, visiting with them, talking with them, and really getting an idea of how we differ, but more importantly, what our similarities are and what we can do with one another to move forward with good county government.
I've been coming to AOC now for 4 years. My favorite part of serving as commissioner is trying to bring positive effects for our community and our county.
This is my second year at AOC, and the camaraderie that I've found in my Eastern Oregon partners and just the camaraderie of AOC has really blessed my life.
My name is Court Boyce, Curry County Commissioner. This is a collection of people, county commissioners, public officials, well attended from all over the state. You know, I have the privilege of working with a very diverse group of people, different ages, different backgrounds, different interests, but they're all teaming up to solve the problems of our county. And it's just really a pleasure to be able to be connected with and working with those people. And better days, good days ahead for our county and our citizens.
Hi, I'm Joe Dobulskis. This is my third AOC convention, and my favorite part is the networking with the people. And the breakout sessions are kind of good because it gives me something to focus on, a goal where I want the county to be in 5 years when my term is up.
Hi, I'm Tillamook County Commissioner Dave Yamamoto. Our county college class was probably was the best county college class ever at AOC. It was the largest at over 33 members. When you look at the legislature and the power that the major metropolitan areas have, the rural counties are oftentimes left out of those conversations. AOC really does a terrific job of representing rural counties and rural interests, and we wouldn't have the impact that we do in Oregon without AOC.
My name is Joe Burney, Lane County Commissioner from Springfield. My favorite part is eating good food. My second favorite part is meeting with other commissioners, seeing what they're thinking, comparing solutions to problems, learning how nonpartisan solutions really are, and getting ideas.
Yes. Hi, my name is Derek DeGroot, Klamath County Commissioner, and so I'm running for second vice president of the Association of Oregon Counties. I believe that our association is perfectly poised to solve problems and bring solutions to Oregon politics and communicate with the legislature about the diversity of Oregon.
I'm Jay Bozovich, and I'm a Lane County Commissioner, and so I've been a commissioner for about 8 years and 11 months. And my favorite part about being a commissioner is this job is different every day.
Hi, my name is Alex Tardif, and I'm a commissioner for Columbia County and currently serving as AOC treasurer in my second year. And the thing I enjoy most about AOC and being the treasurer is the ability to bring 36 counties together to build a state vision, to move our state forward into the future while building a livable, workable community that we all want to enjoy.
One of the things I really appreciate about our entire region is that we embrace who we are, and I think that's what unifies us. Once the timber and fishing industries collapsed, it took us a long time to get back on our feet. People didn't quite grasp the idea that once these jobs left, they weren't going to get other family wage jobs, and it crippled us.
Things were getting really dire. So we just saw that this was an opportunity to maybe look at that public land a little differently and how it could bring more dollars into our region.
The Wild Rivers Coast is so unique because there are more wild and scenic rivers here than anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The scenic beauty is just amazing. There's so many different places to go, from the national forest down to the protected ocean, and it's just a really special place.
I guess I didn't really know how special it was, though, until I moved away to Portland and came back and saw all the potential here.
We're uncrowded, we're unspoiled, and we're a little difficult to get to, but my God, once you come here, you fall in love.
We just thought if we could pull people to come into this Wild Rivers Coast and stay longer and explore a little farther into our backcountry, there was a lot of opportunities for them to experience.
I think our whole future is at stake here. This area is ready to go. We just need to give it a little kick in the butt.
I'm going to be honest, when the Rural Tourism Studio came here, I was skeptical because I didn't see far enough ahead that we actually could collaborate regionally, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been amazing.
The Rural Tourism Studios was the first time we were able to come together as a region to talk about the future of our economy.
If we can have a strong tourism economy in this area, it's going to benefit the whole community.
We have to rely on ourselves, and I think through this program, it's sort of opened our eyes to what we could do when we work together. Community leaders really focused on 3 areas: outdoor recreation, food and agricultural tourism, and really building community relationships.
In our area, a lot of the food that's grown all gets shipped away. And so now we're realizing that we can capture some of that local food that's grown here. The Eat Fresh and Local Action Team has hosted a series of networking events bringing together the area growers with the area vendors so that we could have more local food available to the visitors to our area. And now we're seeing more local food in our grocery stores, in our restaurants, and we have a new local food co-op.
We created a farm trail from Bandon to Port Orford. We did 9 U-Pick farms, and it just gained traction, and people loved it.
Langlois is less than 500 people. It's very small. So we have to bring in tourists. And being on the farm trail, even though it's just beginning, has really helped do that. We really want to make it a destination for anybody. My mom and I began Dragonfly Farm just 3 years ago. When I found out that I could grow a seed and turn that into food, it was like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you do this? I just quit my day job and I just signed the paper to be an official co-owner of the farm. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life and grow with the community.
Out of the Outdoor Recreation Action Team, we came up with a series of maps that show where the best places to go recreate are. We know where we're going to send people now, and we got a great map that shows all the best places to go see.
For us to get a mapping project done to this extent is pretty impressive. We're patting ourselves on the back. I don't know anybody else is, but we're doing it.
From that, we decided that there was some places that needed help, so we came up with a mountain bike plan, and we also worked on designating a state scenic bikeway. The Outdoor Recreation Action Team was also looking at how we can make scuba diving better in this area. So we came up with the idea for a scuba fill station. So now people that want to come and dive in this area, they can dive for multiple days because they can get their tanks filled up again. When I started the Rural Tourism Studio, my business, South Coast Tours, was really small. And now we've grown to about 5 or 6 guides, and we're doing tours all over from Brookings all the way up to Coos Bay.
Overall, tourism is on the rise here. We've had a bang-up last 2 years, and it's like a breath of fresh air down here.
My hope for the area is that we still keep that sense of place.
Loving a place to death is a big concern that I have, and it's a balance. We're going to promote tourism, but we want to do it in a sustainable way. One of the biggest reasons that this area has been so successful since the Tourism Studio is the people that are involved. We have a lot of great, motivated, smart people who understand the need to promote tourism in the right way, and it's really all about the people.
When you live in a rural community like we do, from Bandon down to Brookings, and you're strapped for cash, relationships are crucial.
As a community, I think you need to come together and find out what your mission and goals are collectively. Then you can work into smaller groups, knowing that you have the backing of the whole community behind you.
As long as everybody's just super excited about it and passionate about what they're doing and they can work together, then anything's possible.
Own what you have and don't try to be something that you're not. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time. So roll up your sleeves and just dig in with an open mind.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all, of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is, and what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast.
The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second Haystack Rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot one or two of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns, and as a result, offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back. Like Lincoln City, Newport is one of the larger towns on the byway. The historic bayfront on the north side of Yaquina Bay hosts one of Oregon's largest commercial fishing fleets. It has a busy, genuine working waterfront feel, with fish plants and boats coming and going from as far away as Alaska. On the south side of the bay is the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Share waters beneath the ocean with sharks and rays. And don't miss the sea otters at mealtime.
Now, all 4 of our otters were rescued otters. They were found out in the wild.
For the next 50 miles, your trip along Highway 101 hugs the coast. Many more state parks offer opportunities to stop and take in outstanding vistas, crashing waves, and offshore rock formations. 2 small towns of note are Waldport and Yachats. Waldport sits on Alsea Bay, where fishing, clamming, and crabbing are popular. The 40-mile stretch south of Waldport marks steep headlands, jagged volcanic outcrops, and jaw-dropping scenery, the rugged edge of the Oregon coast. Yachats is a quiet, unhurried artist town just a couple of miles north of Cape Perpetua. Drive to the top of this bluff, and you'll be 800 feet above the water. On a clear day, you can see 70 miles of Oregon coastline. Drive past Heceta Head Lighthouse to the Sea Lion Caves. A quick elevator ride 200 feet down puts you in America's largest sea cave, the year-round home of wild stellar sea lions. Rugged cliffs give way to graceful beaches as you approach Florence. In the spring, be on the lookout for wild rhododendrons along the roadsides. Similar to Newport, you'll find an historic Old Town commercial district along the Siuslaw River. Florence is the gateway to the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, a 47-mile sandbox of wind-sculpted sand dunes towering 500 feet above sea level. These are the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes in North America. Reedsport is at the center of the Oregon Dunes, but you can do more than ride a dune buggy or motorcycle. A short 3 miles east of town on Highway 38, More than 100 Roosevelt elk reside at the Dean Creek Elk Viewing Area. Early mornings or just before dusk are the best times to photograph the herd. Paying homage to Oregon's timber heritage, Reedsport hosts an annual Chainsaw Sculpting Championship, a time to watch three-dimensional artwork come to life right before your eyes. Mountains of sand continue at Winchester Bay. You'll also find an active marina here. It's a great place to try your hand at crabbing or take a charter for salmon or...
All right, we are back in session. It is 16:42 on April 20th, or April 22nd. After our executive session, staff is to proceed as directed. With nothing further, this meeting is adjourned.
Of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas,